Don't worry. Like and subscribe. Airtime Podcast. Turn that bell on.
Cody,
Don't miss an episode.
This is the battery that you grabbed this morning?
Okay, we got Anto Chamberlain on the podcast. Absolute beast. I feel like that's an understatement in the streets. Maybe one of the most progressive street rail riders to ever exist. And then he also is really good at backcountry. It's like this other little avenue of yourself that I don't think we can overlook. I think, you don't go out there and do a back five off a step down if you don't know what you're doing. So all-terrain vehicle, but has maybe pushed the rail riding aspect to new heights. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. As we were just saying, I'm moving out of my place in Victoria and moving back to the best place on earth, Whistler. You never leave the bubble. That's what I always say. You're always coming back. When people used to leave, I'd be like, you're coming back. There ain't no way you're leaving.
I'm coming back every year for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that was a nice surprise the last couple of years. You visiting with your family now in the RV. Even this year, Anto shot me a text, and in the Man Boys group chat, I'm like, yo guys, can Anto come out tomorrow? And it's like, normally we like to kind of like keep the crew really tight. We're going really far. And everybody was like, Anto can come anytime he wants. You got the welcome card anywhere we are because of, for a lot of reasons. But it was nice for you to join us this year. You shot some nice photos. You even rode some badass natty terrain. Were you excited to kind of get out and ride some POW?
I just kind of need to. Like, I can't do a year without going. It's just my year wouldn't be complete if I don't go boarding out west, if I don't start my sled or do something like that. Even if seems like there's no purpose now or no real good reason beside just making myself happy, but I need it, and then I'm gonna need it forever.
I like that.
Out of itself. Like I haven't filmed a part in a year or two, but when I'm driving, anything I look for is still some street spots. It's just it's inside us. You can't change it.
Or is it just a me thing? If I'm driving by a spot that I think is sick, I literally like with my two fingers, I like ollie and act like I'm backlipping like the kink or like doing it. There's only like certain tricks you can do with your fingers, like a tech deck. Tail slide pretzel works really well, nose blunt pretzels. But like I'll be driving and I'll see like a massive like sea ledge that's coming off of like a Costco, and I'm like, nose blunt pretzel, which those tricks used to not exist in snowboarding. They were once just a dream. And then you and a handful of people opened up the floodgates to really like anything is possible.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, it just depends on how much you want it. But I really wanted it. I still want it so bad. But going back to scoping and then seeing a new spot, like, do you ever stop still like and just walk up the stairs because you kind of want to just see if it's a good spot or not? Like, do you still do that?
Not as much. I would have probably like 7 years ago. I did for sure. But if I'm being honest, living on the West Coast, there's just not a lot of spot options living up like the sea to sky. And Whistler spots just have kind of like a poor aesthetic to them. But if I lived somewhere like Montreal or Quebec or Sherbrooke or wherever, if I lived in Quebec, yeah, for sure. The spots there look amazing. There's graffiti, there's cool concrete, the buildings are old. There's something to like make a good shot there. And when you're walking around Whistler around like $7 million homes. It just like the vibe is just not there to like backlip their rail in the backyard. You know what I mean? So it's just like, if I lived in Quebec, the answer is yes. I would be getting out of the car to scope.
It's pretty funny though, like the being with Sarah in the car with the kids, and it's like, I'm sorry, I need to stop and go take a proper photo. It's pretty funny. It's just so passionate.
Anto's spots. Are you gonna release a book on Quebec? Like, how can the kids get Anto's spot book? Because we know that thing is. Do you have a spot book on your phone? Do you have like a folder or an album for spots?
Yeah, even cities folders with the spots, and then usually every city folder has a weekend folder and then a week folder. Because you need that, because you can't do any spot on the weekends and any spot. You need to make sure your weekends are used as their maximum. You can't do a week spot on a weekend spot.
And you could get really technical and throw in like school spots and holiday spots.
You cannot waste your weekend on a week possible spot. You need to be at a school, you need to be at a university, hospital, you need to be. Yeah, that would get me really mad when a crew would want to go do something that we could do during the week, but it would waste a weekend on it because it's so crucial. And then, yeah, because it's one thing to find spot, but it's another thing to figure out how and when to hit them and then have enough time to do your tricks. Because you waste so much time working on a spot and then you get kicked out, you don't have a clip. Time is precious, so precious for anything you want to do. Anything you want to do in life, in snowboarding, your time is everything.
I would intervene there and say that you are a master, a goddamn master. For those that don't know, I used to film with Anto for at least 4 years. I feel like I went to Quebec, and there's nobody that had that down to like a science. It was nuts, from the tools to the spots to the work ethic to like the grind. You had that fucking down. Who was your mentor? Who taught you how to like approach the streets in such a professional, curated manner?
It's a very good question. There is no crew kind of work, because I'm from Sherbrooke. So everybody from Sherbrooke, there isn't really any people before in terms of like properly filming rails and stuff like that. Because Déjà Vu's from Quebec. Max Legendre, and Yann Dauphin, they were from Montreal. So like they were there before, but then nobody was in Sherbrooke. So it was more me and my friends figuring it out. And then it was a lot about watching snowboard movies. And then we would learn from that, buy a camera and do that. But I think it's just, and then so we started on our own, and then we figured some stuff out. And the first professional crews that I worked with were Brothers Factory, and then further, we're going quickly there, but further DC, and then I feel like I did learn more or a couple big things with Aaron Bittner and Torstein. You were there that year. Those dudes showed me that we can spend money and then to get better clips, and that was something I wasn't ready to do or didn't have the resources at that time. But I worked a lot on just me wanted just to get better or get more clips, and then when you want to get better, you find solutions or you find any way to be more productive. Yeah.
What spot, because you get to a spot and the spot isn't perfect. Most people are only willing to put in a certain amount of effort, where I've seen you do whatever it takes. It seems to me like if you come to the spot and you're like, a back nose press, back 180 on this would look so sick. and your filmer and lifelong friend Matt Jabot is like, dude, I could film this so good. You got a back nose press back 180 this. There is no telling Anto it's not possible. It's insane. I've seen you do literally whatever it takes. Like, and I'm saying that in a good way because I think that you've taken that discipline and moved that into every aspect of your life. And now it's just like any hurdle that's in your way, you're willing to put the effort in to make that happen if you think that that thing should happen, which is amazing. I feel like sometimes I would see a spot and be like, damn, a back tail on this would be super sick. But there's a car there and there's like something that I need to grind off. You're like, well, then we just need to get a grinder and then we'll put pylons in front of the parking spots when the car leaves and then no one's parked there the next morning. I'm like, holy fucking shit, that was genius.
There's a lot in what you just said. There's many questions to answer. And the first one is like that I would do anything to make a spot work. That's the issue. Is like if you were to come with me film snowboarding in Montreal, you would come here and then you would see a spot for the first time. For me, I've been driving in front of it for 10 years. And then I'm been seeing myself doing that trick, and I'm just like, wow, that would look so cool. With pop like this, we can light it like that, and I've been seeing it for so long, and it just I want to do it, and if it just takes a little bit more work, I want the feeling of pressing the actual thing. I just don't want to think about it, and then I end up just wanting to snowboard so much on those features that I would work harder maybe than some people, just because I'm so driven about feeling the shot, not just seeing the spot. I want to feel myself doing the trick and stomp it. Stomping a trick is just the gnarliest drug ever. You know what it is. Like it's one thing to film a clip, but it's another thing to find a spot, imagine you can do it, make it work, make the spot work, because sometimes you build it and it doesn't work, and you make it work, and then you do the trick, and you find like the energy, you find whatever you need, because sometimes you're just so scared that it takes more than you think to do it, and then you manage to control everything to finally try it, and you try it and you make it perfect and you stomp and everybody's hyped and you're hyped, and it's like, for me, it was worth the shovel for 2 days. It was just worth it. And then if for some people to go buy a grinder is spending $200, for me to go to the store and spend $200 on a grinder is me buying a tool that is going to last me for 20 years and will be used in other aspects of my life and for more clips than this one. And then it was also me getting a clip. So I couldn't just, it's not like I was going to buy a case of beer, drink it, and it would be gone. It's a tool that is going to help me help my friends get more clips. But yeah. So it wasn't, I kept finding a way to make this spot works. Not that I like to break stuff to make it happen. As much as possible, I would put it back exactly like it was. And so, but sometimes, yeah, we would shoveling, spend hours and hours, and yeah, most of it was worth it.
How much money do you think you spent on tools? Because you had a sea can bin filled with tools.
It goes fast. Just the lightning, this generators. I bought cameras. I was buying cameras so we have a second angle for real snow. Like it's huge money, but it was just, it made sense at the time. But I probably still have 20 grand of tools, like the winch, everything is still here. I've been borrowing my stuff to some people that I think deserve it, and they come and they use the gear, and then it's still being very well used.
I think that another thing to note is Anto has a system in the back of his truck, how everything gets placed in. The lights, the generator, the extension cords need to be wrapped a certain way when the Jenny turns off. And I learned the hard way because I learned it my dad's way and did it like this and this. And then, and you're like, and the back of that truck, when you're done and the Jenny gets turned off, it's like, it's perfect. You have such a system with everything in your life. Everything needs to be like done properly. And I absolutely love that about you. It's like, you don't waste any of your time. I feel like maybe that's a interesting subject to tackle, is like, when did you figure out the value of time? Because most kids that are 20 years old that want to be the next pro have zero clue or appreciation for like an hour, where you're like, an extra hour is an extra hour of scoping time. And you also realize that you can invest in yourself with these tools and the hours spent looking for spots and practicing. So maybe just touch on that.
Well, I think it really comes from me starting to work very early. I was, I don't know if the proper word was, shaving Christmas trees with machetes. Like,
What?
yeah. So you need the Christmas trees that you buy at the store, they don't just come like that. They've been shaved every year with a machete, and you turn around the tree and you shave it in a good shape, like a hairdresser would dress someone. And then I was 14. It was a summer job not too far from my house. And then I was the only person from Quebec. They were all Mexicans that they would do that all summer. But but when you start to work early, I feel like, for me, I was counting my money because I needed to work to get my snowboard pass, and I needed to work that much hours because I wasn't making that much money an hour. So you start to count, you need to work that many hours for that snowboard pass. But same with anything, like if you buy like a meal at McDonald's, it costs you $15, and if you make $15 an hour, you need to work an hour. After that, I was working at the skate shop, and if I wasn't making myself a lunch with the food that my mom bought at grocery store, I would have to take an hour from the day that I was working to pay for McDonald's back in the days. So for me, it didn't make sense. And like the next hour will be fully wasted in a meal that I could have made a healthier meal at my home. So it's kind of like that. I was trying to think like, hey, if I'm paying this, I don't have enough. I have less money for my snowboard pass. I have less money to buy a camera. I have less money to buy lights or shovels or whatever that was making me happier than a meal at McDonald's that I would regret. But I was counting, kind of in a way, not being crazy about it, but I was okay, this cost me that much time. Because you work, and the time that I'm at the shop, I'm not skateboarding or snowboarding. So if you need to work more because as I'm not spending well my money, I'm wasting my time.
And who instilled this? Who was the earliest person that like instilled the hard work in Anto? Like, was there a mentor? Was your first boss shaving Christmas trees? Was he really hard on you and taught you like discipline and stuff like that? Did you have a really disciplined upbringing? Like, I feel like in order to value your time and have an understanding of the value of a dollar, it doesn't just pop up into a young 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old's heads. Most people are just like, oh, my snowboard broke. I'm 16. I can't buy a new one if my parents can't do it. So I just can't do this anymore. It seemed like from a young age, you were like, where there's a will, there's a way. Was it a Disney movie? Like, what taught you that?
Well, I mean, when you're passionate about something, thank God I was passionate about something. I was passionate about skateboard was the first thing that I remember that I was passionate about. And then if my parents couldn't buy it, buy me that skateboard, not skateboarding wasn't an answer. So there is no way I would just drop off. The answer was I need to work. And then how much do I need to work to get a skateboard? I need to work that much. And if I spend my money right, I don't need to work as much and I can skateboard more. It was just, I don't know, it was just in my head, it makes sense. But I think that the fact that my parents were not buying me everything that I need made me need to figure out how to buy it. And my parents couldn't buy me anything that I wanted. That's a fact. But they gave me amazing and such good values. And they showed me so many things, as how much respect is important. And so I think respect is the base for everything, because if you respect your boss likes you more. And if you to be respected by your boss, or to show respect to your boss or your shop owner, a way to show respect is to work as you're supposed to work. And then that respect is going to make you a good employee. If you're a good employee, is going to keep you. And I couldn't afford to be fired, so I wanted to respect him, so he keeps me. And then I think respect is so important in any aspect of life. But I think the answer to your question is a very big mix of how amazing values my parents give me, and then the fact that I was passionate and driven to move forward in all my passions.
And when do you think you went from Anto the work hard to Anto the work smart? Because I know that you ain't working at a skate shop or McDonald's anymore. Yeah, at one point you transitioned from I'm going to work so hard because I need to work. And then I think a huge transition was Anto needs to work smarter. And I think not only did you do that financially, you also took that into like snowboarding. Like, if I work this hard to get this shot, is it worth it? And so like maybe just touch on working smarter, not harder. Because I think a lot of people get trapped in like they work really hard, but they don't get the same outcome.
There's a lot of, yeah, it's a very good question. But if you take the example of the snowblower, so you witnessed with me, you used the snowblower with me I feel like I was maybe some of the early people in snowboarding that use a snowblower. And then the idea was that you move snow faster. And then you go back to the same thing we just talked, you're saving time. That snowblower, I bought one, I won a contest, and I was like, I really think a snowblower would be more productive. So I bought a snowblower, and I read and I bought the best one in terms of it would last me for a long time. But it was expensive. I think it was $4,000. But you need to, I knew it would save me time, and then time would make me more productive. More productive means I could shoot more snowboarding and then enjoy snowboarding more. So I think my brain was trying to find ways to be more productive and not get hurt, because if you shovel for hours, you also get tired. So now you need to manage your time and your energy if you want to become more productive or more performing better. Because it's so hard to shovel for 2 days and then to make a clip happen, or shovel for a whole day and you want to try to get the clip at the last light. It's super hard. Same when you build a backcountry jump for 6 hours and then, oh yeah, let's hit it. You're exhausted and you need to jump off 100 feet and stomp that double cork. Like, you always want to work smarter for sure. But yeah, you're right, because when the jobs you talked about, they're not very big money. So very quickly I was like, how can I make money faster? And I kind of learned that people that were working in bars, they were making a lot of tip. So I was 16, 17, I was trying to figure out how to get in a bar and work as a how do you call that, the one that picks up all the glasses and everything behind everybody?
Bus buddy. I have no idea.
Bus boy.
Bus boy.
Yeah,
Yes, I was
that's how we
close.
call it here. I
Bus
tried,
buddy. I'm sorry, everybody. That was painful.
but when you're doing that in Quebec, you're getting a part of the tip from the bartender. So like, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pick up all the trash behind everybody. I'm gonna get some tips. I'm gonna get more money an hour, and I'm gonna work only 2 days a week and film 6 days, 2 days a week and film 5 days a week. And then when I turned 18, I did bartending because it was such good money in only 1 or 2 days. And then I could go for a while. So that was really, really good. And another thing that I wanted to do is to find a summer job that would, that I could not work in the winter. So I did that after. So some ways to be a little smarter in a way that I didn't have to work in the winter. So find some summer jobs that would give me enough money for the winter.
Maybe you briefly touched on it, but you bought that snowblower, $4,000. I've used that thing, and when you need to get a landing, you need to build an in run. It's like, you couldn't have said it better, where you get so exhausted moving that snow around with a shovel, with the push shovel. It don't matter. The snowblower, it's like, okay, let's just blow some snow and cover this entire parking lot. So the entire ride out is just snow. And then I can focus on my trick and not absolutely thrash my board. I don't know if you watch those new Dust Box movies, which those dudes are the best, and I'm the biggest fan of their snowboarding. But the ride away landings, like, I don't know how many new boards kids get now, but like, nobody's putting snow on the landing anymore. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. But
do you get that much snowboards every year? Like,
no, I get like, dude, I try also to not ask for too many either. I don't like to be the person who's like asking for like too much stuff from my, like, I don't know. I'm not the best dude on any of the teams. I ride for Vans and K2, and it's like, well, and some other companies, but like those two specifically are like, I'm just gonna stay in my lane here, not ask for too much stuff, not annoy anybody, and just
it's funny. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but Dustin Craven once said, like, you don't want to be the best, like, you want to be in the middle, so they keep you for longer.
Yes, you always want to leave them wanting more.
It's such a genius. But talking about boards though, like, same thing back in the days. Like, if I would keep my boards in shape, I could sell a few at the end of the year, and I could buy more tools and be more productive, or have enough money to put gas in my car to film more, or buy more lift tickets. Like, why would you want to waste a board because you don't want to shovel 10 minutes more? Like, that 10 minutes is going to save you a snowboard that is worth $300. So there's just always like trying to find a way to win-win. And also, like, you were talking about snowblower, but it was back to respect. When we were done with the spot, we were doing such a better job taking the snowboard to snowball all the snow out of the way and bring the place back to what it was. It was a way to show respect to the place that we didn't own. We're always snowboarding the place we don't own, but it was also a way to make sure we can come back next year if we want to push ourselves and try a bigger trick on the feature. Because I know there's a lot of people that wants to find new spots, always new, and then I'm one of them. But there's also a part of me that like to see progress and like to push myself and be like, I did that trick on that spot. Can I push myself to a gnarlier trick? And then going back to spot is something that I didn't dislike. It was okay for me to go back to some spot as much as I needed to do something harder for sure, but it was something that I did like. So going back, I wanted to be able to go back and not come back with skate stops on the rail.
Totally. Maybe a while ago you were I'm going to kind of switch gears on you here, because I feel like this is an important chapter. You touched on it briefly, deja vu, but before then, bandwagon, that whole group, and then you got people Sunset Films, I believe, and then you got like Max and Yan. Being young Anto, who were the French Canadian guys that you looked up to?
And was wow, all of them. There was Max and Jan when Frosted Flakes came out. That was after the first snowboard movie I watched was Resistance. Thank you to Alexis, my buddy, that did that to me. He changed my life. But we watched Resistance, and then True Life were the movies that I watched the most in my life. But then not that far after Frosted Flakes came out, and that, I think that was very progressive and very impressive. Those guys really were heroes for me. And then I mean, there all those dudes. I was always a big fan just because I could relate to those guys, and they were coming from the same place as I was coming from. So, and I mean, Louis is a big inspiration. Ben, Alex. I mean, even before that, Etienne Gilbert, Etienne Tremblay, big influences for me. Still to this day, those dudes, they have great life path in general. I very yeah,
Admire them.
yeah. But it's easy to forget a lot of people. But I definitely, all French Canadians, I was always very inspired.
Touch on being a French Canadian and trying to break onto the scene, because as we all know, just as a Canadian, as a European, as a Japanese rider, as an Australian rider, whatever, somebody from Chile, I don't care where you're from, it's just like, if you're not from the US, breaking onto the scene is tough. But I feel like French Canadians in Canada, it's even tougher for some, not all of them, but it does seem like a more difficult road for whatever reason. Maybe the language barrier back in the day, maybe it's the names, whatever, I don't know. But since you're actually from there and you're French Canadian, speak on like the discussions you have in that like intimate community about like trying to break on the scene. And yeah.
It's very tough. It's a very tough question. It really seems like it's a lot harder for us to get in the US market, but I'm not sure what's the real reason. Like, I'm really not sure what's the issue. But I mean, over the years, I noticed, and then I understood that snowboarding is not just about how good you are. It's also about relationships, and then you make those relationships at the premieres, you make those relationship at the contests, you make at all those events that take place in the US. And then if you don't meet the team managers, if you don't meet the brands, like, they know you exist, they know you're performing, they know you're good at snowboarding, but they don't know you. Like, it's not as easy for them to want you to be on their team because they don't know if you're a good teammate. They don't know if you're a good. So I think it's just really hard because we're so far. And then also Quebec's population is not so big. And I very often had discussion about the sales here. We don't sell that much. Like, you sell so much more in California, so much more anywhere in the States. There's I think so much more people in the States than in Canada. I don't have the numbers exactly with me, but it's 10 or 15.
I think it's 10 or 11 times bigger.
It's a lot bigger. So the companies don't feel like they need to invest as much marketing in here because they're not going to get it back in sales. So I think it's just tougher for them to spend money here and then associate a rider to a territory that doesn't sell. But so it means, yeah, it makes it very tricky for us. But I think that for me, I knew it was hard, so I pushed myself into the US market. I pushed myself to go in places that were gonna help me make relationships. Part one, because I knew I was never gonna be the Louis, the or the Jed, or whoever is very gifted or natural talent that is just so amazing and so nice to look at or whatever. And I'm the person that needed to work more to get it strict, to work more for everything, because I wasn't as good. So I knew I had to push myself in more if I wanted to have a career. I'll just try to put in everything in life, you need to put everything to your side if you want it to work. You can just hope that things are going to work. So for me, that's what I did. I tried to, instead of just going to Camp of Champions, even if it was easier and cheaper, didn't need a passport, didn't need to speak, I needed to speak English there, but yeah, so I tried to go. I went to iCascade and to a contest in the States, and then to premieres in California, so I could meet people and then try to make things work.
That's I love that. I think that anyone trying to make it anywhere in life, it's like all you really have is your relationships. So somebody like, yeah, your snowboarding is obviously the main, the focal point here. Let's not get that, but it is important. Those relationships are a huge factor in just any type of success anywhere. Because who doesn't want to help out the guy they really like or the girl they really like? It's like, if you like somebody, it's in your best interest to help that person so you can keep hanging out with people you like. If I was a team manager, I'd pick the person that I liked every time over the person that was a little bit more talented.
Even, yeah. Do you want, I can tell you a really good story. Do you remember the Must Be Nice movie that I had a part in, you had a part in, and I had an intro that they were flushing my head in the toilet.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So long story short, we filmed that part. I filmed with them as much as I can. And then I invited myself in Whistler. I said, can I come to Whistler, sleep on the couch? I'm gonna buy a sled and I'm just gonna film the dudes for free. And that's what I did. Like you remember at Rube's house? I lived under the stair, had a little triangle behind the sofa, and then I bought a sled from Annie Boulanger. I remember that, and then I was going up with them. Never sledded in my entire life. I was going up with Ika, Devin, and Ryan, and I was just filming them. I filmed a bunch of clips in the movie, but I had already a full part in rails, and I wanted to keep snowboarding. I wanted to learn how to go in the backcountry. If I would have told them, hey, why don't you guys bring me in the backcountry? I never did anything like that. They would have just not bring me. But if I was offering myself to film for free, and then in the same time I was learning how to snowmobile, and they said, yeah, why not? We have an extra filmer. So I did that, and I learned how to sled. And then I end up writing lines with them and writing stuff. And then like when they were tired, I was just lapping and then doing some ghost laps and stuff like that. And I learned so much. I was going sledding with Devin Walsh, not because I was invited as a rider, because I wasn't a backcountry rider, because I was filming and helping. I was helping them build the jumps for free. So they didn't work as much. And then they had a filmer. So it was a win-win for everybody. And I learned the sled. And then the first day going up, I put my backpack zip up like this, and then my old lunch was gone on the first day, and then they're it's so crazy because I never rode a snowmobile, and you have all those guys leaving the parking lot for Rutherford. Like, I don't know, those years 2012 and 13, it was a race. Like Ika, Devin, those guys were so fast on the cat track, I couldn't believe it. I was trying to catch up with my lunchbox flying in the back, and then I don't know. And then we got to like the glacier, and Devin stops and he looks at my sled, and then like I mentioned, it was Annie's sled, looks at my slides, and he looks like all the suspension or like lower because it was for Annie. And then doesn't say much. He opened the toolbox. He fixed all my suspension. He's like, it's gonna be easier. You're good to go. And then we kept going. I'm like, what a fucking G. He took the time to just look at my sled, make sure everything's all right, fix it, and he just kept going. I thought it was such a legend move. And it's just, he cared. Didn't know who I was, didn't know where I come from, but he's with us, he's in the crew. He deserved to have a sled in order. And yeah, and then so I invited myself there, but definitely that made me a little bit part of a crew. And then since I'm there with the team manager, Nick Olson, meeting him, I'm kind of there. So I'm learning and being involved with everybody, with the filming crew, with everything. And then I hear the plan. The plan is to go to UD for summer camps. And then the plan is to go to California to film the intros. So, and then I know that they don't have budget. Well, I asked Nick Olson if I could go to Mount Hood. I want to go film with them. I want to go snowboarding. And he's like, we don't really have budget to fly you in from Montreal. So a few weeks after, I told him, hey, I'm doing a road trip. I'm going to Mount Hood and do those days. Do you think I can sleep at the place? Blah, blah, blah. Do you think, like, can I just have a place to stay? Like, you don't have to pay for my flight. You don't have to pay for anything. I'll just be there. So I took off. I took my car and I drove all the way across the country with the car that you knew, the old Mazda that we filled up with tools and generators and everything. I drove on my own to Mount Hood to be there the same week that DC was going to be there, because they didn't want to spend too much money on AMS, which is fine. It made sense. It was a protein thing, but I kind of invited myself. But it's not like they were bummed to see me because I was a team rider. We were friends. We worked together in Whistler. It's just that they were not paying for my flight. But that was not a no for me. It was, we're not flying you. He didn't say you should drive. I just thought I could drive. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to snowboard. And then I could have a place to stay in Mount Hood. So I drove there. And then when we were there, they were talking about the intros for the movie. And I'm like, Nick, what if I drive there? Can I help with that? And they're like, do you mind if I'm around? Can I go to the meetings? Like, I've been dying to learn more about how to make products, how to help to develop products and everything. And at that point, they started to edit the movie. And then I think Nick realized that I had a good part, and then maybe wanted me more involved. I don't know, but I kind of did pushed it further, and I drove to California. And then I went and met with Transworld Snowboard. I went to the premieres, and then they filmed the intros for that movie. And I was there. Like, they didn't have to film a segment for my intro. They could have not done it, but I think with the fact that I had a good part, and then everything else kind of, I think towards that process, they decided that they wanted me to have an intro, as I was going to have a full part. But if I didn't drive there, I wouldn't have any. But the fact that I had one, I think made my part step out a little more, and then maybe others in the movie that didn't have an intro. But yeah, you kind of have to make things happen sometimes.
I think it's all in your approach, and you approached each one of those complex situations that were all kind of like it sounds like it's not going to happen, but it wasn't a no. It was kind of like Dumb and Dumber, and you're like, so you're saying there's a chance. And if there's that kind of chance for Anto, you can bet on Anto making it happen, because the way you think is it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's like, you're like, okay, so it's not a no. How can I make this happen? And then you also are smart enough to realize, is this an investment in myself that I should make happen if I want to achieve X? And all of those were yes. It was like, okay, if I go to Hood, do I think I can like build some relationships, show them that I'm the respectful, hardworking kid who has a big skill set and has a lot to offer. And then you just keep showing up to these things. It's perfect. You just continue to invest in yourself. And you also like those, I think a lot of people that would get those like, no, you can't fly me in. They just look at it like, oh, they don't want me there and stuff like that. You're like, it's not that they don't want me there. It's just simply like, I'm not going to be a baby and get offended by this. It's just, they're not going to pay $2,000 to fly me out because it's for the AMs. And like you were saying, 2012, this is the rebirth of brands investing into things again, because it's just right after the 2008 crash. So there's just not a lot of money flying into AMs getting flown out around the world anymore. The Travis Kennedy, Pat Moore, big money for AMs is kind of dissipated at this point. And you're like, you know what? I'm Anto, I'm awesome, and I'm going to invest in myself. And I think that's a huge takeaway that, I mean, not enough people invest in themselves. You know what I mean? They give up too easily.
You really said it right, though. You said it way better than I think I could ever said it. But that Dumb and Dumber quote is perfect. If you're saying there is a chance, or what? How did you say that?
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. So, honestly, I think anything in my life that tells me there's a slight chance that it could work, that I could be that person achieving the dream, that I could be the person that could move forward and become a better person, or grew up in anything that I dream about, or make my dream happen. If there's a chance, I'll make anything I can, because the reward is so good. Like so many people told me, you're never going to be a pro snowboarder. I remember my high school girlfriend told me, you're never going to be a pro snowboarder, and you're never going to be a firefighter because you're too small, you're too weak, whatever. And that was right after prom that I told her I was going to drive the Whistler to become a pro snowboarder. And she says, it won't happen. And then she dropped me. And then I went, and then I didn't become a pro snowboarder that fast. It took a while, but there was a chance. And then I pushed as hard as I could in every part of my life to make it happen, just because I was so happy when I snowboarded. And then the only way I could keep snowboarding was to be paid to do it.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here because that seemed like, yeah, you just tossed that out there. Like, yeah, and then my girlfriend said I couldn't do it and I want to prove her wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then you kept flowing. But do you think that when she said that, that was actually a significant catalyst to you pushing yourself to achieve these goals? Because you are both a pro snowboarder and a firefighter now. Do you give her some credit to that success? Do you feel like that drove you a bit for those first initial years afterwards? Like, fuck you, I'm going to do this.
No, I didn't. No, it didn't. My mind was set. I knew since I was super young that I wanted to be a snowboarder, that I wanted to do that for a living. And then I knew that firefighting was a good job with like a good future for long term. So it was both things that I thought was smart to do, and I was driven to do. So she didn't change the plan or made the plan easier or made me want to do it more. It's just the fact that someone tells you can't do it is just funny. That the closed doors on someone, I don't think it's something you should ever do. Doors should be always open.
I like that. Let's touch on you. You got to film with Torstein for a bit. I don't want to say it as prime, because after watching Natural Selection this year, you're still one of the best snowboarders to ever exist. You are amazing. And his style is better than ever. Yeah. I am a huge Torstein fan. The Tall T era of Torstein, those videos and stuff, I thought they were cheesy, but I still liked the guy. He was doing whatever he wanted. So touch on, Shredbots, Torstein, and getting to go and film with Torstein. Well, he was the best. He still is, but
there's a lot to say. I don't know how much time you got, but we can talk. Dude, yeah, fuck. How did it start? I remember one thing. I remember that there's a fall that I stopped hearing from DC. I think it was 2014, and then no words from DC. Nicholson was gone, and then there is kind of a TM, but he didn't reply anything. So I had signed a contract. I had my first little bit of paycheck, and then I had some travel budget, but no words since that. And then it was the beginning of the season, and then I didn't know what to do, didn't know if I was going to be in a project or something. So I hired my Matt Gibault to film me and then my friends. And then I paid him up front with money that I saved, paid him for January, February, and we filmed reels. We filmed all winter until February. Didn't have like DC, they were in contact. They were telling us they were gonna pay, but no paycheck coming in, no nothing, no travel budget. They weren't like, couldn't see the money coming. And I took all my money to film a part because I thought in a way that if I wouldn't film, it would be even worse if DC stopped supporting me. I needed to have a part at the end of the year because filming a part was what you needed to do back in the day. So I paid everything up front from my pocket. And then towards the end of the season, I don't remember how I got involved with more seriously with Torsten, but he called me saying he wanted to buy all my footage that I filmed to put in his movie. So in a way, like, he wanted to have writers to make a full movie. And then he worked with me before, so he knew if he worked with me, bring me on trips, it would be productive, and then it would be fun because we were getting along and everything. So call me, he's like, hey, do you have any footage? Can we buy the footage you have so we can to put in our movie, and you want to come with us to film snowboarding in Whistler? I think it was March. And so I was not paid by DC for some reason, and then some office reason or politic reason, and then I was almost out of money, and then Torstein bought the footage, paid for my filmers month that I paid for everything, and then DC started to repay their athletes and repay the travels, had enough money to fly to Whistler and then to start filming with Torstein, Andreas, and then Craig. So that's how it started. But another example on how I could have so close just stop or not film because I couldn't afford it, or because I didn't have any support, but I decided to gamble and then still film because I just loved it so much too. And then because I saved money, it was I saved that money for, I don't know what it was saved for, but it was used very well for that. And then and then DC started to pay, and then everything fell and everything was working back. But it was a scary moment, but it was also a big deal for Torstein to call me and be like, hey, do you want to be in my movie? And then, do you want to be part of this? And
he saw the beast, dude. He's like, this dude's in my movie for sure.
yeah, well, it was a very, very nice event. As much as I wanted maybe me to be part of it as an athlete, I appreciate the chance he gave me to be part of it too.
Man, yeah.
Giving back a lot to snowboarding. And then somebody needs to, I don't know, people don't really see that, but I have so much respect for that. Athletes that gives back to snowboarding. Like, there's multiple example. You have Torstein that brought a lot of people under his wing in his movies. There's example Bodhi that did his movie with all other M's with him, or same with Louis, some of his projects, he brings up some upcomers with him. And then that's I think that's very important, that because it, for me, I started to make money after 8-9 years of filming full parts, really, I think, good parts. And then before you make money, it takes a long time. And then if you don't have anybody at some point that is helping you a little bit, it's gnarly. And I had at some point, I mean, when we were filming Must Be Nice, we were both broke, and then Aaron Bittner was helping putting gas in the car, was helping with renting the equipment, he was helping with many things. That's such an important thing. And then to give back, because he was making good money at that point, really good money, and he was giving back a little bit. Torsten's giving back a little bit. There's a lot of great athletes that they give back, and then thank God those guys are thinking how they think.
Yeah, if you're in the financial situation and you're one of those pros that's making, good money, no doubt. I always feel a little bit guilty when I hop on these trips now because I just don't make like great money, but I still try to like do that move because I feel like by no means necessary am I comparing myself to Torstein or Aaron Bittner, but like I was on those trips with you, and I remember Torstein buying a bottle of wine for the table, and I was like, fuck, I want to be like this dude so bad. And it's like, yeah, I aspire still to like work a bit harder and have a bit more cash in the bank. So those trips in the coming years, I can really give back to the kid, especially when you see a kid that's working, that deserves it, that has that summer job. But it's like, dude, getting a summer job when you're a kid and then trying to still navigate a full year is damn near impossible. Filming is not cheap. Chasing snow is not cheap, but we're addicted to the clip high.
It's very, very expensive. And then, yeah, it's if you want to make it right, just to fly somewhere, yeah, it's gnarly. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's wild. Actually, Torstein actually shot me a quote here. I just texted him, and him and I were texting back and forth, which is nice just to catch up with him anyway, because the guy's the best. But
Just got married.
he said, Anto is an amazing human, the hardest worker I ever got to session with. He's down for anything and will help you out, will help you no matter what, even if the idea is completely crazy. His ideas sometimes seemed a little too crazy for me at times, but once it was set up, it all seemed to make sense. And it always produced amazing moments, relentless and fearless, always so inspiring to go bigger and achieve new spots. Another important mention is that Anto makes everyone feel safe at any spot. The kid has carried babies out of burning buildings and is no stranger to saving people's lives. I thought that was rad.
Pretty epic. Yeah, thank you, Torsten.
I think one thing that I thought was, and we'll jump into that shortly here, firefighting, but you do make people feel safe at spots, which I think you have a very calm, cool, collective personality at spots. I think you're really good at putting out an energy that other riders feel that they can ride their best around you because you have their back in any situation that would go wrong. But more importantly, and I've been this rider, is you have a natural ability for people to, you can like be like, you got this. And you can instill that confidence in individuals so they can really push their riding to the next level, because it's not like you're like too crazy, like you should just do whatever. But like if there's a trick that's slightly pushing your riding and you know that individual's capabilities, I feel like you're the perfect person. Chris Rasman's really good at this too. He's amazing at this. But just being like, dude, you got this. You're good at lip slides. This spot's perfect. We set up the takeoff absolutely perfect. You did one the other day on that down rail. Like, it's going to be wild through a couple of those kinks, but like, you totally got this, and like, let's fucking go, or whatever. You wouldn't say that exact quote, but that's what I would hear when I was with you. And there's a lot of stunts that I performed over the years that you instilled that confidence in me at a time in my life when I didn't have a lot of confidence in my riding, because I was just going, I was talking to I think John Stark, who was on the last podcast, about My relationship going down the tubes, a couple of the years I was filming with you, and we were in a couple rough patches. And I remember just being on these trips with you, but my mind was so gone from it. It's weird when you have a distracted mind, how hard it is to focus at the task at hand. It's so important when you're snowboarding or doing anything where you need to be in some sort of flow state to be fully there in the moment. But when your head is in other avenues, fuck, is it hard to snowboard. And maybe on that note, you know, you do this firefighting thing and then you got to film for X Games. That must be tough to navigate, and like the turn off switch from firefighting, and you're dealing with trauma and stuff like that. And then you're going into X Games, pushing yourself to film the best snowboarding that you've ever done and some of the best riding that's ever been done, which is wild to see that like mental control that you have, and to quiet like the noise in your head and be like, it's a gift and you're really good at it. It's wild to witness firsthand.
It wasn't easy to navigate both careers, not easy at all. And then there's some part of me sometimes I think that maybe if I gave up firefighting and involve more of my time in snowboarding, maybe I would still be there. Like, not that I regret things, because I don't, because the fact that I kept both careers really made me brought me where I am right now, brought me where I am right now. But sometimes I was like, if I wasn't firefighting, because I was catching up the hours of the winter and the summer. So I was working 60-80 hours a week in the summer to have the winter off. But if I wasn't working that much in the summer and was maybe not training but snowboarding more, or working more on relationships with brands and then with magazines, or putting more energy towards finding good songs to have the best video part ever or stuff like that, maybe I would have gone further in snowboarding. But
Further.
yeah,
It's funny to think further. Like, I think of you as somebody who's accomplished so much.
well,
Especially like
that's
it's
a very
wild.
very good subject, because to me, and that's just me, but to me, the last part that I filmed was my best part ever,
Hands down.
so in my head, I was ready for more, so ready for more. And then I kept telling myself, because you wanted to talk about X Games, but let's talk about one part of it. Is I did not really like to do X Games, because it is not the snowboarding or the video parts that I wanted in my life, like that I wanted to give to the people. What I like in a video part is those 2-3 years projects that you see in skateboarding, the parts that you take the time to put the right spot in your part, the right clip, the right this, the right that. X Games is not that. X Games is a race that you give everything in such a short amount of time, and then you do whatever you can in that short amount of time, not just the clips that you want because you don't have enough snow for the clips that you want, because the weather is not cooperating, because you hurt yourself. Because I kept doing the real snow because I thought, and I think maybe I was wrong, but I thought it was my only way to have enough views, enough likes, enough support, enough visibility to still be paid. Because if I would have said, oh, sorry, DC, I don't want to do X Game because I want to film a 2 years project. But when you're like me, signing a year or 2 year contract every time, and if you don't get that X Game medal, well, you're the French Canadian, you're gonna go first. You know, I was always so worried to get caught and to not be paid to snowboard again, that I was trying to make the best decision in terms of what the brand needs from me. I loved filming real snow. I liked it. I liked to film snowboarding, but I wished I was filming parts like I wanted to. But I was fine with I filmed those real snow, won the medals, everything, and then I was hoping to maybe get a gold and maybe feel solid enough in the industry that I could ask my sponsor to film a 2-year project. And I was there when I got the silver medal in 2019. I was so happy with that part. I was like, and then DC promised me a 2-year contract vocally, and that didn't happen. And then it changed, but I was yes, I was super happy. I'm like, I did good. I think I made a nice impression, and then my sponsors are happy, Rockstar, DC, and then I can do that 2-year project that I'm dreaming about. I mean, that didn't work out.
Your 2019 part was, as somebody who has filmed with you, as your friend, it was your best footage you have ever put out. French Canadians are infamous for filming, for critiquing others riding, and for, if they're put out clips, there's a certain standard to those clips. So I understand why you wouldn't like this, as it's a rushed thing where you might even have to put clips in that you wouldn't normally, because I know how much I know the expectation you hold with your riding. The back 270 that you do on that down rail, the one that Jan Dolphin in the summer does the back lip on. I mean, every French Canadian has clips on that, but to me, that rail is Jan's forever. That back lip that he filmed in the summer was the best. But that back 270, it isn't like, it's a long rail. I've been there before, and it's steep as shit. But you don't gap the whole thing. Like a lot of people, when they do back 270s onto a down rail, they'll go really fast so they don't have to lock. It's like you lock, and then your body wants to keep turning a bit, but you hold your shoulders, and it's just, you're just locked into the most perfect board slide ever.
Yeah.
And then your arms on the exit, perfect. The other clip in there, because I know how you think when it comes to parts. Maybe I should.
Hold on. But do you imagine the feeling riding out of that rail?
Oh, dude, it'd be the best.
It's the best thing ever. Oh my
back
God.
270 onto that thing. Oh man.
No, but it's like they're actually, like when you look at the rail and your board, you still manage to keep it square till the end, and then you land, and then you look up to the film, and you're as surprised as him, because you did not expect you could do it as perfect as that. And you look up at him, and then you're both like, it's so much fun to look at your teammates, and then just be all celebrating, and then just be like, have so much energy for the next person to go, and then to help him, because you want him to get that same feeling. Like that journey is, I repeated it a lot, but the journey is so rad. It's not the whole day, it's the whole process. It's such an arty thing.
The best feeling of filming to me ever. This is my favorite feeling ever. Let's say you're hitting the spot, 2 people, you and Billy Bob, whoever, doesn't matter. And you get your trick and you get it good. And then Billy Bob is struggling, and you have that positive energy now. You're shoveling the landing for him. You're hyping him up. You're changing the music. The vibes are good. You keep being like, if you land this, I got dinner tonight. And the vibes are flying. And then Billy Bob gets his clip too. It's like the best feeling ever when you hop in the car, mission accomplished. You put on like Pop Star by Drake or something like that, and you're like, or some Jeezy or something like that, and you're just like, let's fucking go. Oh, that feeling is addictive.
It's so sick. It's yeah.
Who filmed the best X Games real snow part ever?
Wow, I would have to take another look. That's really hard. Because it is, I mean, it's very subjective too, because I don't relate to everything that some writer, like I don't appreciate the writing of some writers as much as some other. It's tough. It's a very tough question. Do you have a top 3 easy like that?
I mean, no, not off the top of my head. Lewif off the top of my head. I really like, I mean, I just like with snowboarding a lot. That part that you filmed, the 2019 one, stands out to me. And I mean, as far as like full on just mind melting, mind blowing stuff. Oh, Spencer, I really like too. Just like it's like, yeah. I just love his style. So yes. But then Frank's part is like, there's no way you can't look at that and go like, I rewatched that part before we jumped on this call, and like to see him not really, I mean, you know, get maybe like what he deserved, or however you want to navigate that statement. It's like that part is fucking crazy. And he clearly had, I think I'm imagining he looked up to you a lot as like how hard you have to work in order to ride those spots that aren't like organic, where you do need to get a winch. And when you're riding the spots that he's riding, I feel like two parts to this. So I feel like you do a really good job of doing a well-rounded street part where you have a couple really gnarly things, a couple really unique things, a couple really technical things, a good switch press, and you have a really well curated street segment. His part to me was just like mind melting, like tricks that I didn't even know snowboarders could do. And it seems to me when you're holding on to the winch, if something went wrong with the winch, sometimes like he would die. I'm like, I don't want, and I'm really happy that like when he does that front board hop back lip that he tinks on, that they thought he like broke his back. You're like, oh my God. Like, or Jason Dubois bail that one year. It's just like when you're getting that gnarly, it's so scary, dude.
Yes. It's very scary.
What's the scariest spot you've ever hit?
Have you ever there's a few. Over pole jam over the fence.
That one I don't even like watching. When you get over the fence, I'm like, oh, thank you.
Let me run you through the process. So, and then that's a gnarly, I think to me that's an amazing part of filming a part of or a real snow is sometimes you're feeling it. Like I woke up that morning and I changed the plan. Like we were going somewhere and I like, nope, we're going there. I'm gonna do it. Like the whole crew knew I had that in mind, that trick on that feature, but we didn't know when we're gonna do it. And then one morning I was like, let's go there. Let's go there and see if we can do it. And it happened a few times in my career that you think something's not really possible, and then one morning you feel more confident or you feel like you can do it. And then so we drove there, and then that thing's fucking gnarly. It's so gnarly. And then you build it, and when you build it, when you start to build it, it doesn't make sense until you finish building it. But then
that's exactly what Torstein said.
Yeah. Because sometimes it was him that he's like, hey, do you think we can do that? And he's like, I don't think, he has a spot in mind and he's showing it to me and he's like, I don't think we can do it. I'm like, I think we can do it. And then I build it with him and then he makes it after. It happens and it's cool because it's together made it happen. But when you build something, sometimes it makes more sense because you see it differently. But back to the fence, we need to open the fence to walk through, and then with the winch and everything. So open the fence, close the fence. And then I do a couple of speed checks with the fence closed, because how do you speed check to go over the fence without going over the fence? Like, how do you
open the fence so you can try a couple times?
Yeah, so that's what we did. So I closed the fence. I was like, I'm going to close the fence and I'm going to redirect on the fence to like feel the height and then go higher. And then that didn't work out. I was just hitting myself through the fence. And so we opened the fence and then I tried a few. So I just ollie with empty fence. But then I was doing it 3 times. I was doing it 2 times perfectly over the fence, because we opened one fence, not both of them, one fence, and then Frank April was telling me, oh, you went over. Oh, no, you did not. So I would go twice, make it perfect. And then the third time I would come off too early of the pole jam and not make it over the fence. And then, and then I was like, okay, I need to do 3 in a row before I close the fence. So two in a row. Oh no. And then third one didn't work. And it was just gnarly because the more you do it, the more you get tired. And then just, I think it was the 8th time I had 2 in a row good. And I said, we're closing the fence. But even just the time you take to close the fence, you're cooling down, you're like, so close the fence, and then I do it perfectly over the fence, and then everybody freaks out, and then I freak out. It was the gnarliest thing ever. And then Eric Lamotte, taking photos at that time, was like, I don't like my angle. I would like you to do
Classic
it.
photographer bullshit.
Do you think I could do it one more time?
Oh my God. That's every photographer should get a t-shirt that says that. Can you do it one more time?
we need that t-shirt. That's a very smart thing. You should make those the quote of Dumb and Dumber, and you should make that t-shirt too. And he nicely asked me if I can do it. And then I did another one for the photo. And then the first photo, we didn't want him in the fisheye angle. So I kind of asked him not to be in that angle. So he was far away, and then his shot was good, but the fisheye was gnarly. So I made it another time for him for the fisheye, and then the fisheye it ran as a spread in King Snow, so it was worth it. But yeah, I cannot believe I did it twice.
I'm so bummed you did it twice. You know what's the gnarliest clip I've ever seen you do live was the 50-50 on the hubba, and then you ollie over the spiked fence,
Oh my
which was
God.
a closeout, and then on the landing there was
On
a
the
rail that you had to avoid, but it was in the landing, and you put like, dude, that clip like hurt. I remember watching that and being so stressed out. I was like, everyone's like, okay, pulling bungee, and I was like, y'all think we should be fucking doing this? Like, I really like Anto, y'all. You all, can we have a group meeting about this shit?
And I was kind of nervous because that was a major bust zone. And then I thought it was such a beautiful spot, such a beautiful feature. And then, but yeah, there was a donkey in the landing, and I took a duffel bag and I put all the clothing that I had in that duffel bag to make a cushion on the donkey. And you see, when you watch the clip, you see my knee just rides maybe like maybe a foot from the donkey. Like I ride out smoothly and I turn on my heels to avoid the donkey. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a sick spot.
I hate that spot with all of my being.
And do you know who
I'm
found
so
that?
glad it was over. When you landed it, I was like, wrap it up. I wasn't even excited. I was like, I was mad at you. I felt like a girlfriend.
It went very well.
No, I'm kidding. It was fucking sick.
And you
That
know,
spot was gnar.
Eric Lamotte, the photographer, gave me that spot for free. Sent me a photo and said you should go there. And then I was with Andy Wright, and he accepted that I go with Andy Wright.
Sick.
Just because he's a good friend, and also probably because he asked me to go over the fence twice.
And shooting with Andy's the best. He's such a. I love Andy. I love his photography. I'm a big fan.
I think we were talking about
Spots, tricks. Do you want to go through a couple more of your favorite tricks?
Do you remember I jumped off a roof to a board slide on a concrete ledge?
Oh yeah. Which one? The beginning of you have the board slide 2016. You have a board slide off the roof with the orange suspenders.
Yeah, orange suspenders.
Oh my God, that clip is wild. And then your 2019 one's insane too. It's almost like steeper.
I like that one too. But the first one, I'm jumping 10 feet to reach it.
Oh yeah, dude. That clip
That,
is
that was one of the most scary spot too. I would never ever try that again.
$1,000,000.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. It's demolished now, so we can't have that bad.
What about like
Oh, I think you were going to talk.
technical? Let's talk tech. What's your favorite tech trick you've ever filmed?
There's two that comes to my mind. I like the I would call it switch frontside 180 to backside nose press. I don't know how you would call it. That's gonna make some.
Yeah,
There's gonna be some comments on
oh
that.
totally. So it's a switch 180 nose press back 180 off his toes. So it's like, do you call it a hard way half cab
I
nose
think
press back 180? I don't know. That's if I was like riding a rail and hiking it, I would say that like hard way half cab nose press back 180, but people
I
don't
think
like that.
very commonly you could hear. I think I would say off cab back nose press. I wouldn't say hard way.
Yeah,
Off
hard way
cab
is a horrible
back
name.
nose
I don't
press.
like hard way. Over 270.
Oh my god, that sounds terrible.
I know that we gotta, yeah, snowboarding and names, donut, Danish, bagel. Ooh.
Let's just post it and see who's got the right name. It's gonna
Okay,
make a
that
comment.
clip is mind melting though.
And I had that.
You
I was-
tap though, and you're super crooked.
I like that clip, and then I think for maybe a little technical, maybe the cab 270, the front board on the triple down ledge.
Oh, that spot is. What did you do on it? Front boarded it first, right?
Well, see, earlier we talked about progressing on the spot and go back. The first year I did like 50-50 down flat hop, 180-50 on the last down, which is I think is horrible today. And I did a switch backside 50-50. That was the first year.
Switchback 50s are always steep.
Yeah.
Someone's got a switchback 50 in their part. I'm like, that's dope.
Yep. Louis had some of the greatest one in these days. I don't know if you can remember that in Ottawa.
No.
First year I did that, and then I went back and I did the front board, and then I went back 2 years after for the cat 270. But I had it in mind for years.
Was it easy or was it a battle?
No, it was first day was I think 52 tries the first day, and then I hurt myself and I had to stop because I broke a binding and something, and then the next day I think it was 34 tries or something like that.
Where's the why? Why?
Why
When you're
I-
walking back up on the 89th try, what's going through your mind?
because the whole night I could visualize it. I mean, you could see it in my head. I wanted it. When you imagine it perfectly, like you want to do it as you want that feeling, not just seeing it in your head. I
That
knew
clip is so sick, Anto.
I could do it. I just really wanted it, and then it was the best feeling ever. I didn't think I could bring it back. It was so kinky.
It's so
really
kinky.
fun.
And you
I
do it
remember.
absolutely perfect.
I remember because me and Craig didn't expect to bring it back, and then look on his face. It's so much fun when you write out and you're surprised, and then you got your friend is so hyped too. It's so much fun, dude.
And I love that everybody who's listening to this podcast right now, for the most part, 99%. So you're saying there's a chance. So there's maybe a chance that somebody doesn't know what that feeling is. But like for the most part, everyone, like that feeling of pushing yourself to where you're kind of like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And then you do it. And then you got a homie in the landing. That is the best feeling ever.
But you
It's
also said
so
it's
sick.
also really fun to see your friend get something, but it's fun to see them push their limits. And then, dude, last week, I was with my brother-in-law, Mark McKay. Shoot out to Mark. And then, like, we were at the lake house and we went cliff jumping. And then I jump off the highest one just because it's easy for me because I jump off cliff my entire life. But he didn't want to jump any cliff. But he got out of his comfort zone and he ended up hitting 1 and 2 and then like fully like pushed himself, did something cool. But it made me feel great. Like your buddy is having a great time. And then that's so much fun. It's so much fun to share passions, to share pleasures. That's what we work for. And that's why my goal in life and in everything is always to try to find a way to be successful so I can share my passions, because it's just so much fun for me, and it's so much fun to see your friends have fun. Like who want you that's everything is life is about kind of having fun, but you still need to be smart because you're not having fun if you don't have anything. You still need to be smart and then think ahead about everything. If you just think about having fun, it's not going to make sense. You need to figure out a good balance. But it's so much fun to see your friends being successful and then have fun in some tricks.
Shared experiences with loved ones, friends, and new friends, best feeling. Big fan of that shit. Maybe touch on the closing chapter. How did DC kind of let you know, and how did you kind of take us through like Anto's mind in the shower a couple days later, where you're just at least for me, whenever I get some news, it's just like typically when I'm in the shower a couple days later after getting the news, it's just like it's processing. You're like, oh, this is happening. So take us through your,
It's good story for sure. Bobby Meeks is the team manager. We became really, really close friends still to this day. A very good person. I respect him very much. And then my contract is up, I think in June or May.
How much is a DC contract now? If you don't mind.
At that point,
nosy?
at that point, I was making 60 grand in US dollars. So that was close to 70, 80 Canadian.
Plus travel, or does that include travel?
I think it includes, I think I would say 80 Canadian, including 10K traveling.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it was great, and I was thankful every day that I was making decent money snowboarding. I made
How much from Rockstar? That's an interesting one for me.
Not much, but you really need it. It's still, I think any dollar is a dollar that makes you can enjoy more life. I mean, it wasn't much. I think it was good with the X game bonuses. I think it was like 16-20 a year. It wasn't that much.
But there you go. So you're making 6 figures off of snowboarding plus firefighting. So those years
I think that barely lasted though. That 125K was maybe 2 years. I say I made really good money snowboarding for 4 years. Before that, it was maybe 20, 30.
How many video parts total?
15, 12, 13.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you put it on every time that I didn't really being paid, you can bring it back to maybe 12 grand a year.
Okay, touch on the breakup here. I want to hear about this shit, but get real. Let's hear how it.
It's pretty simple. So DC were telling me a 2-year contract.
Dites-moi tout.
Series thinks I'm talking to you.
Oh.
Oh, DC was vocally telling me, Bobby was telling me that they were gonna sign me for 2 more years. Similar contract. I wasn't greedy. Didn't need much more. I was very happy with what I had. Like I said before, I really wanted just to keep filming. Honestly, it was super, like I like that, film video parts, film snowboarding, share what I was making with upcomers and stuff like that. Everything was perfect. And then summer came, get a call from Bobby, June, July. He's like, hey, it's gonna be a year contract, not 2 years. And you're gonna take 20% off. And I said, okay, it's fine. I just want to keep going. Like, I'm loving this. I want to film a full part this year. I want to film like a part for myself, not for X Games. Like, and then I really trusted the process. And then my agent and then Bobby, the word was always, lawyers are working on it. Lawyers are working on it. Lawyers are working on it. It's not done yet. It's not done yet. And I'm in full faith that everything's going to be fine. And then it's really sad because they told me, I think 2 weeks prior to my last paycheck. And I think that's a big, I don't know why they did that, because if they knew in June, they could have told me. And I feel like and then it's not Bobby's decision. It's way higher than him. So I don't blame him for anything. I just hope that DC could have told me maybe a few months ahead, because when you're making, it's a serious amount of money. Like, you plan, like your life is planned in a way because you know you're gonna have those incomes. Like, there are people have mortgages, people have obligations. I had a kid. Beatrice was born at that point. I had a kid, and then I'm losing that paycheck 2 weeks prior. Because I was making good money snowboarding, I decided to take a 2-year sabbatical from firefighting, starting in August. So I'm not receiving any money from firefighting. And then me and Sarah set our life in a way that we were gonna travel for a bit. So we like kept our old cars and everything, and we were like super, like, we didn't spend money. We're gonna travel for 2 years and have a blast, and then with the newborn, and then stop working with the pregnancy leave and everything. And then we left for Europe. I was surfing in Biarritz because we have a friend that lives there. When I got the news, like, we were in their middle of our trip of our life, and then planning to travel for a year. And then you get the call over there, and we're spending money because we're traveling. Like, we're spending money that we're never gonna, like, I'm not gonna get anymore. That was the hardest part, because if I knew 2-3 months ahead, I would have maybe stayed home and then rethink the whole thing. Like, can we still afford this? No, I'm not gonna cry that I'm not making money snowboarding anymore. That's not the point. The point is, oh, this is happening. We need to make sure we can still travel like this. See, so I'm not blaming them that he dropped me or they didn't renew my contract. I'm blaming them for not giving me a little bit of a heads up. It's not like I was making $500 a month and they were cutting me. Like, it was a serious income in my life that they were taking out pretty quickly. So that's how I thought it was tough. Honestly, I knew it would happen. I'm, like you said, I'm ahead of my game. I try to be ahead of my game. I knew it was gonna happen at some point. That's why I kept firefighting. That's why I invested money, because I knew that day was gonna come. But I don't think that, I feel like it could have been a little later in terms of how I was snowboarding, and in terms of what I was giving to that company. I feel like I was doing a great job, but it doesn't matter what I was doing. DC was bought by some company, and then that company wanted to cut the marketing budget. It has nothing to do with the people that were supporting me. It has nothing to do with what I was doing in snowboarding. It has everything to do with a board of investor that own DC Snowboarding.
Anto, back to what you said at the beginning of the conversation. I think you're just disappointed because when you have 2 weeks heads up, you just know that the people that are running the show at the time, there's not that same mutual respect. You know, if they would have thought about it for a second in June and July, which they probably knew at that point, they should have had the decency to be like, we don't know if this guy's having a kid, what he's doing, his mortgage, etc. But when you're making $80,000, like you were saying, that's a huge salary that you are constructing your life around that salary. And then they give you 2 weeks notice. It's like that just shows no respect, which is from your roots. It's like that's what the entire foundation of Anto is built on, is respect. And you're like, where is the respect, motherfuckers? That sucks. But a lot of snowboard companies and there are a lot of team managers that listen to this. I think that's a big thing, is like knowing when you pay a snowboarder 3 months late and stuff. It's like people have still got bills. Yeah. It's such a weird thing. It's like if you work at the corporations of these snowboard companies, if your bi-weekly paycheck didn't show up, you would be like, where the fuck is my paycheck? I've been doing my job. And for whatever reason, there's been this like weird thing in snowboarding. It's like where the money is just, and it's been since the beginning of snowboarding from the sounds of it. I've interviewed tons of people, new AMs, pros, old people. It's just like, fuck, dude, just like show the common courtesy to pay people on time if you say you're going to do something.
Yeah, paying on time is such a gnarly thing too in snowboarding. Answering email is a gnarly thing too.
Oh, dude, the art of emails.
No,
that's so annoying as somebody who's not a great I'm just not a great writer. So whenever I write an email, my girlfriend says, your emails always sound like you're talking. I'm like, well, that can't be good, because let's be honest.
But the story gets gnarlier, dude. It gets so gnarly. I mean, in my eye, it was great. I mean, we were north of Spain, rented an RV with the baby for a couple months. The deal, we were just cooking in a camper, surfing, is just, we're very fortunate. We live a great life. But that happened. It's a big hit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, as strong as you are, as confident as you are, you just lost your sponsor for 10-year long sponsor. You know that I was 30, 31, 32. Like, you know, nobody's really gonna knock at your door, even if you win X Game medals. Like, I'm smart about it. I knew what was happening, but I'm so driven, dude. I was so driven. I was like, I still got Rockstar. I have the greatest agent. So I went back home. I was invited to Real Snow. I was like, I'm gonna film the best Real Snow segment ever. And then I knew Frank Bourgeois wasn't doing it this year. So I'm like, oh, since I'm always second, I might be first. So I'm like, I'm gonna win Real Snow with the support of Rockstar. And then I'm going to use the Real Snow money to film it and to produce it. And then I'm going to find a sponsor because I won X Game, and then blah, blah, blah. Super motivated. And then I start to film Real Snow with Craig McMorris and then a great crew. We're fired up. We're in Sudbury. I scope for 4 days. I find the sickest spot. The lineup's ready for the whole week. It's all perfect. First day, first feature. It's a flat rail. I do a Miller flip, like the backside 3 kind of a Miller flip that I can't pronounce the name, and then do 50-50 on a down ledge. It's not a long ledge, but it's just, to me, it was the first. I haven't seen it, nobody do it ever, so I thought it was the first like back 3 style fish. and plan to a proper 50-50 on the ledge. Some people did it after, but I landed it, and then it wasn't perfect. And then I said, I'm gonna go back. Went back and I broke my leg. And then that was the first clip of the year. So I didn't have a real snow. And then it was a 4 months injury, so I didn't have any clip. And then that's when my career was pretty much over.
Take us through the headspace after, like, hospital, leg break. Like, because your motivation to get back on the train and rebuild and reconstruct your career from the ground up was depending on that real snow in some aspects.
Well, I was thinking it was depending on that, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was already gone. Maybe there was no way any sponsor would start and support someone at 31 years old, someone like me that is not like an amazing figure like Louis can be, or Jed can be, or like, because you saw Jed go from big sponsors to big sponsors, but like I'm kind of like F1. I'm in the middle field. Like I'm really good, but nobody cares. Like you know, like anybody know about Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen, and the middle field, they all know them, they like them, but they're never a favorite. They're never the one that the sponsors really want to like. So when you're 31 in the middle field, you kind of knew. But what I had to do at that point, when I broke my leg, when everything was pretty much over, no sponsors, and then also Rockstar, my contract was up in Jan. I was confident to have a strong real snow to start negotiating and just to ask them to pursue. And then broke my leg, had nothing to show. And then they pretty much stopped sponsoring most of the Canadian athletes in any sport that year. It was COVID coming, so that was another thing in the mix. But when I broke my leg, what I had to do, I had to become a machine of social media and make sure I post and then get some likes, comments and stuff. So any brand would be like, hey, social media game is crazy, we should get that dude. But I cannot do that. I'm not a social media person. I cannot self expose myself. I cannot post stuff about me. I hate it. I'm like, I can't post a selfie. I can't do that. I don't want to do it. I never wanted to do it. I am not the person that wants to post stuff about himself and be like, look at me. I tried so much to be that person because that's what my sponsors wanted, but I cannot do that.
Do you believe that things happen for a reason?
Yeah, maybe, because since I broke my leg, it made me spend 4 months in a row with my daughter instead of 4 months filming apart. So my daughter was 6 months old, and then I spent 4 months in crutches raising my daughter, and I'm very lucky that I did that, because a lot of other people are going to work every day, and I was with my daughter every day. So it was the best year to be injured in a way, and it was the worst year to be injured for other things.
Man, that's wild. It's just complex to think of, like, where your
very complex
headspace would have been at that exact time. Because in a way, it's like, unless you are like the Jeds, which is like not even a 1% group, it's like the smallest group.
Oh, yeah.
When you're making 80 grand, it's only the Jeds and the Lewis and the Blavelts and the Travis Rices of the world that can go get new sponsors.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you're not even like middle, but I'm talking like upper middle successful snowboarder with almost like package deal, Anto crushing it, best X Games real snow you've ever filmed. And it's just like, And what COVID happens, brands are already like just shrinking in size, and then trying to fathom getting another sponsor after the summer of COVID. You're like, this is fucking over.
No, I was pretty aware of that. Pretty
And
aware of it.
so when did it occur to you that you're like, I'm done being a professional snowboarder? That chapter is closed and I'm gonna move on to something else.
Well, it's kind of a funny, it's a weird question because in my head, I was never a professional snowboarder. In my head, I was always just a snowboarder. And then in my head today, I'm the same snowboarder. Like nothing changed in my head. I still want to film. Like last year when I was with you, like I go up and I go up with Ben Belug because he wants to get some airtime. Like he's willing to go up with me and build a hip. Nobody else want to do that with me, or nobody else. Like even if I have some friends that would like to, they need to go to work. I mean, I'm lucky that I invested all my money in a way that I'm able to take some time off and go sledding and snowboard. But all I would want to do is still film because it's really fun to be up there. It's really fun to be out there. I do really enjoy being a father, and then being with my kids is a great thing. I wouldn't be able to leave my house for that long and not be with them. That's why, like you said, when I travel to Whistler these days, I'm with them. They all come with. But I would listening to John Stark podcast the other day. I would actually pay to go film snowboarding with him and Louis in Japan. That sounds like the best thing ever. Dude, he got me so hyped because he see in the same way as me. The way he scope things and everything, like scoping Japan on Google Map is so fun.
Okay,
But
we
no,
can't, we can't avoid. Oh, sorry.
I could go tomorrow on a trip and film a really good part, I'm sure.
No,
You can't get it out of me as you can't get it out of you.
no, it's not going anywhere. My girlfriend's well aware of that, but it's like I'm down because it's like my favorite thing in life, other than my girlfriend and maybe my family, is snowboarding. It's like it's the best. We're my fiance now.
There's more like I keep going to Whistler in the spring to snowboard and help and take photos because it makes me snowboard, it makes me sled, it makes me be out there, up there, because I feel so good up there and I feel alive. Like I work on my building properties, I work on all that stuff so much for me to be able to get some time off and then be able to live the things that makes me really alive, like surfing and snowboarding and then sledding. Yeah, and then I snowboard quite a lot still. It's very nice.
Okay, so
Talk about him, like you asked me what it was to film with him, but we pivoted on some other stuff. There's so much to say. I have some great stuff to say about him because I was so close to him in his greatest moments. It was a good question. I didn't really manage to answer it well, but there's yeah.
shoot.
It's great though, because we said a lot of good things. But how do you want to restart? You're probably gonna cut this part.
I will now that you said that, but 100%. And I mean, no one wants to watch us go to the bathroom for 10 minutes. But why don't you just say exactly what you just said there and just say there's some I can cut this to you saying can I take this? Can I say something about Torstein real quick? Like and then just say whatever you want to say.
But do you do you have to go soon? What's your
I gotta go in about an hour here, but I think that like if you touch on Torstein for a couple minutes, I still want to touch on some stuff on firefighting and then investing, and then there's like 10 questions I have at the end. But I think those two chapters will probably be about 20 minutes
I
each.
think it might be weird if I talk about Tor right away without anything, because it seemed like you wanted to go talk towards like other investment and stuff, since we just talked about after snowboarding.
Totally. I can, well, here, why don't we just do this?
I
We'll
can
just-
I can plug Torstein later if you say like you want to thank someone or whatever. I could.
Yeah, exactly. I'll write that in front of me right now. Okay, dope. All right, so but what I did want to add, or what I did want you to touch on is firefighting. Why firefighting? You mentioned earlier that even with your high school girlfriend or whatever, you wanted to be a pro snowboarder. Check, did that. Firefighter. At what age did you want to be a firefighter, and why?
I the first time I started to think about firefighting was 9/11. So I was 13 years old when 9/11 occurred, and looking at the images, I thought they were pretty gnarly to go in there and then try to save people. So from there, I started to read a little bit about the job and then what was a firefighter really doing, because they weren't really working on the fires; they were trying to extract people and stuff like that. And it made me curious about the job, and I looked more about everything else than the fires, like what are they doing, paramedic and stuff like that, and then whatever. So read a bunch about that, and it kind of fit with what I liked in life. Like I couldn't be an office person. I like to work with my hands. I like to troubleshoot. And firefighting is all about that. You go somewhere, there's a problem, you fix it. Well, you go somewhere else, there's a problem, you fix it, and then whatever the problem is. So I don't like the routine, and then there was many aspects of the job that fit with me. So I decided I wanted to do that. But before I was going to do that, I wanted to give myself the chance to become a pro snowboarder. So when I was 17, finished high school, I told my parents I'm going to drive the Whistler, because back in the days, what you had to do to become a pro snowboarder, you're driving the Whistler, like DCP, Jeff Belshaw, Alex Oshue, Etienne Gilbert, Tremblay, all those dudes, they all made it like that. DCP, there's so many. So I did that, and then the scene's very different in Whistler, because in Quebec I was winning snowboard contests. I was getting some little sponsors. I was winning like a contest here, making a little bit of money there, and in Whistler it's not like that. The scene's very different, and so I was snowboarding. I was getting better and better. And then, do you remember meeting me that year?
Not maybe.
You were with Jeeves, and then I was pretty much alone, and I saw you, Jeeves, and all you guys at the camps and everything. We're riding the park. I won like King of the Hill in those contests that year. And then
Yeah.
you might remember that, but I was learning a lot. I was getting really, really good because I was snowboarding every day. But then I got hurt, and then I gave myself a year in a way that I told my parents, hey, trust me, if it doesn't work, if you give me a year, let me do my thing. If it doesn't work, I'm coming back. And I'm going to show you that I'm going to go to school and be serious and become a firefighter or do whatever job. So I kind of pressured myself to be a good kid in a way that they let me try. If it doesn't work, I'm going to make them proud and then go to school and do the right thing. So when the Whistler, I became way, way better than I was. a lot better because I was snowboarding so much every day, working night cleaning, snowboarding every day. I was saving money in Whistler. Can you believe that? Because I was so driven, and then I needed the money to go to school. I needed the money to. I was so driven to become a pro snowboarder that I wanted to stack money to be like. I wanted it so much, and then it was 10 months in Whistler, and I wasn't a pro snowboarder. So I registered to firefighting school, and then I drove back, and then I went in firefighting school, and then I decided that during the weekend, instead of working to make money, I was going to go to snowboard contests to make money, to try to win the contest so I can keep snowboarding and making money to pay my bills. And that kind of made me snowboard in the contest and be motivated by be able to keep snowboarding and be able to pay my study fees. So I did all the contests. There was a contest every weekend in Quebec back in the days. Every weekend you could make $1,000 or $500. And then back then, at those years, it was Jason Dubois winning everything. I would win sometimes or be second. And then Jeremy Cloutier was winning a lot. Phil Jacques was winning too, Frank April. We were all the Quebec riders at the contest all the time. But I was able to make enough money to pay my bills, sometimes buy a snowblower, sometimes buy lights. And then all the other days that I had off, I was filming. I managed to get in Brothers Factory and then film good parts. So I was winning contests, making a name, going to school, being a good kid. My parents were happy with that. And then they were happy. They were really proud of me snowboarding. And then they did not force me to go to school, but I kind of forced myself since they gave me a chance. They let me drive across the country at 17 years old. Like, they trusted me that I would be serious and then back and then do something right. So I pressured myself kind of to do the right thing. And then, but it kind of all melted together because I finished the school, and then I got the ender part of Brothers Factory movie. And then DC got more and more interested in me. They started that M program that you were in. So things moved forward, and then I got that firefighting job in Montreal. So I'm getting a real job with a real income every 2 weeks. And then with real good pension plan. And then also, which doesn't mean a lot to some people, but to me it meant a lot, that I could borrow money to buy a property. As soon as you get hired in a fire department or in an hospital or in anything that is steady, you can go to the bank and be like, hey, can I borrow money? And they'd be like, yeah. If you're a pro snowboarder and you get a paycheck and you want to borrow money, they say, no, you have a 2-year contract. Like, it's more complicated. So that was kind of the reason I'm like, do I really want to drop that thing that says I can borrow money and invest it? And then also at that point, I wasn't making zero money snowboarding. I was just being sponsored by DC with a little bit of travel budget on the M team. And then I was getting money from Montreal Fire Department, and I could take the winter off. So why would I close the door on firefighting if it's helping me to snowboard more at this point? So I kept both. And then there was those years with DC that became good money, and I was like, should I drop firefighting? Should I not? Like, always, how long is this gonna last? A lot of thinking for sure. But yeah, firefighting was just something that I thought was a good job for me, and then I did it, and I still do it. I took sabbaticals the last 4 years to be more with my daughters, and then to work more on the properties that we own. But I'm going back next summer full time.
You mentioned there that you wanted to become a firefighter to be able to borrow money from the bank to buy an investment property. where did this idea pop into your head? Did you read Rich Dad Poor Dad when you were young? Did you have a conversation out in the backcountry with Matt Belzil? Like, where did Anto, I need to buy an investment property?
That's a good and sad story. My dad, shout out to my dad. He's an amazing person. He inspires me every day. He's a very good person. He told me one thing. He told me one thing when I was 16 years old. He told me that he regretted to not have bought one multi-family unit or building. He told me that if he had done so, he would have given us a better life. He said that to me very simply. And then he told me that, and then he told me that he was going to take the family money and buy one when I was 16. And he did that. He bought an apartment building. But I think the reason he told me that is because he was trying to explain me as a grown-up why they were getting divorced. And he was explaining to me why he was going to take a part of my mom money and his money to buy a property, a 4-unit. He was explaining to me that it was a good way to make money aside and then later be in a better financial position. And he explained it to me that he regretted not doing it earlier. And that really stuck in my head. Like, so we didn't have everything we wanted because the financial situation was like that when I was younger. We had way enough, not complaining, but there was some times that we were told, no, we don't have that money for various reasons. Not complaining. We were very lucky. But he told me that he could have given us a better life. And I'm like, how? So I started to read on investing in properties, and I'm good with my hands. I'm Andy, and then I like construction and stuff like that. I'm 16 years old. Why does my dad regret not buying an apartment building? So I started to read on, and then it makes sense. Like, why do you pay a rent if you can own the place and collect the rent? So I started to read and try to understand. I went to the bank. Can I borrow money? No, you're 18. You don't have a job. Go back. Okay. Like, I need a job to borrow money. So that's when, like, I was asking questions. I was going to the bank, being told no. And I'm like, why? Because this and this and this. Well, I'm gonna do this and this and this and come back. But yeah, thank you, Dad, for sharing me your regrets or whatever you want to call it. Thanks for
being
sharing.
Vulnerable, being open,
yeah,
transparent.
We're all vulnerable and we all make mistakes, and we should share those mistakes so people don't do them. We shouldn't be ashamed. We should share it so they don't do it.
That's amazing that at such a young age, your dad says something. It's so funny to me that the simplest thing that could mean nothing, everything that your dad said before that date or whatever floated around your head, but that one thing stuck with you. And it's weird things. Like, I have things that stuck with me too, with like my folks or my family or things my girlfriend said, but that one thing stuck with you and has helped shape your entire life. Because if you're 16 and you're going into the bank and asking the how, where, when, why questions, like they're probably already looking at you like, you can't buy it. You're 16. You part-time dishwash. And you're like, but why? But it's when you ask questions that you finally learn.
Well, he explained it. He explained it that you need a full-time job for a year or two to prove the incomes. But then I found out that there's some jobs that you don't need that. Because firefighting, the banks knows that business is not going to close. And they know that every year your rate is increasing, and they have the actual scale of what you're going to be making in 5 years. So they don't need you to work there for 2 years. Day one, they want to borrow you money. So the day one that I was in the Montreal Fire Department, I was at the bank because I knew that I had the paper to borrow money. And then that permission to borrow money was going to give me the opportunity to buy some apartment buildings, and those apartment buildings were going to help me financially to be a little more free so I could snowboard more and surf more. And that was always the same drive, the same things that I wanted. I knew I wasn't going to be able to be a pro snowboarder forever, but I wanted to keep being able to snowboard more than 2 weeks a year. I needed to find a way to be wealthier and a way to snowboard more. It's all a big chain of things that just got me motivated on working on different things. It's all, you just need a purpose. Whatever you're doing in life, whatever you like, you just need a purpose. And move forward to that.
What you mentioned, you were consuming different books and whatever else. What book or podcast, I don't know, podcasts probably weren't around then, or YouTube video kind of gave you the most insight into how to dive into real estate correctly, or what just kind of like clicked with you? Did you read one specific book that you were like, ooh, I understand this. It sounds like they're explaining it in layman's terms. This is sinking in well. And do you have any recommendations for the listeners for a book that maybe they should pick up?
Honestly, as many books as there is, what always was best to me is people's experiences. Like my dad, for example, had the experience of owning a 4-unit. So I asked him a bunch of questions, and then I asked him how he did it. And then Sarah's dad had a few too. And Sarah's dad was retired at the moment. So when I was finishing work at the station at 7 a.m, I was calling him because he was retired. I'm like, do you want to go for breakfast? I was paying him breakfast so he could, I was asking him a question about real estate. So it was costing me $12 for breakfast. And he was talking to me for an hour and a half in the morning about real estate. Like how he bought his first, how he troubleshoots the issue with the tenants, or whatever and whatever. And then when kind of his dad's experience and stuff, I kind of knew most of that, and then I wanted to move further. I kind of found other people that had other experiences, and I offered them to have lunch. And then because
isn't that so insane?
Like you can ask someone to have dinner with you to speak about their knowledge and everything. They might say no. Some people turn me down sometimes, but some people are happy to share. Like if you offer me dinner to talk about real estate, I'll say yes. Like it's fun to talk about, and then you're going to learn from whatever I did. But I did that, and then I think that those were the best books that I ever could have bought.
The best $12 you've ever spent,
dude, by far. But
I love that so much, Anto. I can't even articulate it. That is badass. Like if somebody is where you want to be, you offer to buy them. Like I'm thinking about the same thing. If some kid came up to me and sent me a DM and he's like, yo, I'm in Whistler, like I'll take you to Earl's I want to make it in snowboarding. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm doing. I just moved to town. I'm 17. Like I want some advice. Can I take you to Earl's and talk to you? I'd be like, fuck yeah, sure.
Dude. And then the worst, like, I think that's one of the things that brought me the furthest in my real estate game or whatever is it doesn't cost anything to ask or to make offers or to whatever. It doesn't cost anything. The worst thing is going to happen is they're going to say no. And that applies to everything in life. Like asking doesn't cost much is the fact when you complete something that can cost something, but to ask someone to go to dinner to share his experience, it didn't cost me anything.
You could
But
ask somebody to go on a date.
yeah,
You could change your whole life. It's just asking. They might say no, but they might say yes.
I mean, and then depending on the person, I was offering money, like offering $500 if you take the time to have dinner with me.
You've offered somebody $500 to have dinner.
Often, yeah. And then
And do they
sometimes they would say yes, and after the dinner, just because they thought it was rad to share it, and I was so respectful and whatever, they didn't ask for it, so it was free.
one sec. Sorry, my FedEx guy just called and my girlfriend's waiting on a package there. But you finished that fucking sentence perfectly. So continue.
No, it's pretty much it. I mean,
Okay.
I'm driving around with my daughter sometimes, and I see a building that I think is really rad and could be a great investment, and I just stop by and knock and be like, "Hey, if you ever want to sell, please call me." And then sometimes they call you back.
That
And
extra effort, people. I love
yeah,
how it's just like seems like you just put that extra little bit.
just
You know,
go
you're
back
driving home, you buy the grinder, you buy the snow blower, everything you're just thinking 5% more about the big picture.
But
It's like a little, you're really I love the way you navigate this life because you're gonna get a lot out of it. You already have. You've already lived like a
it's
crazy life to think
I
about.
really like the quote again. Like, you drive in front of a building that you think is in a great neighborhood, you think could be a great investment. Are you gonna wait for it to be on the market, or are you gonna knock at the door and maybe there's a chance that he's gonna sell it to you,
There's
and
a chance.
you're gonna save the realtor fee.
Jeez.
Like, if there's a chance, it didn't cost anything beside I just talked to someone and met an owner, and then he's gonna call me maybe.
Are there any skills, disciplines from snowboarding that you kind of, you took what you learned from snowboarding into firefighting, or you took what you learned from firefighting into snowboarding?
Definitely took some stuff from firefighting to snowboarding. Um, but you know what? Yeah, definitely, because when you go to firefighting school, it's very it's close to be military. It's very serious. There's a lot of respect. There's different levels of command, and but also the work ethic. Like, you need to work fast, you need to find solution quick, you need to use the tool properly, you need to use the right tool. When you get out of the truck and you see the building on fire, you need to pick the right tools first, pick, and then go into the building. Like, you can't take a minute, oh, do I feel like taking an axe today, or do I feel like taking this and this and this, or like, you need to fucking be two, 3 step ahead. And then, of course, when like it translates to snowboarding, is just a little less gnarly. But there is many things that I definitely like. Team playing, like you're working on it with a team every day on the crew, you're like 4 in every truck. So all of that definitely helped me with being a better crew person in my snowboard career.
What do you Firefighting is no joke. It's like you have to, we all know that it takes a special breed of person to tackle that job, because it does come with a lot of
Yeah, I don't want to downsize it, but firefighting is gnarly. It takes courage. It takes a lot of things, but we don't risk like our lives like not like there's no tomorrow. Like, there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of procedures and a lot of things that comes into everything we do. We go into a building because the fire is not too like the fire is in a phase of its development that you can still go in. Like when the fire is too gnarly, we don't go in because it doesn't make sense. Like when we go in, it's safe to go in.
Anto, you see a building on fire and you look at it and logically you go, the likelihood of me being burnt in this room is very minimal. I'll take these risks and I'll go save that person, or I'll go try and put the fire out X. Everybody else sees a building on fire and goes, I'm not going in. I'm like,
yeah, but think
and
about
you're
it.
like, no, it's safe though. And it's like, motherfucker, that building is burning.
I'm just saying there's a little bit of it kind of makes sense. What we do makes sense, and we're not suicidal at all. Like
I understand the angle because it's like snowboarding, you know, our aunts and uncles, and you go for a Christmas dinner and everyone's like, you're crazy, like you're jumping off those cliffs, and you're like, there's a lot of thought, practice, and calculation that goes into that. We're not just irrational stuntmen that are just being like complete hazards. Like we're not like the back of the pool party jumping off of the roof into the pool and don't know what we're doing because we're drunk. It's like there's a lot of risk management that goes into this.
And that's why we put some snow in the landing in a way that doesn't show too much in the shot, and then it's just precautions. And like when we get into like to a house on fire, I pull the hoses, I prepare myself to go in the building, but my command officer is going to walk around the building with the radio. He's going to tell me there's 4 windows on that level, there's 4 windows in the back, there's this and this and this, fire is coming from the back to the front. Like we get tons of information while I'm getting ready to get in, and when I go in, I'm prepared for like, so it makes more sense than people think. I'm not saying it's a lazy job, I'm not saying it's not an adrenaline rush or that it's any kind of tons of respect for firefighting, but it's thought in when we do the work.
Let me ask you this, and you can kind of navigate it as you see fit, but like, have you ever saved a life? Does that happen, or is that like asking a police officer if they've ever been shot, or like, you know, is this something that you do a couple times a year? Or
so taking a person out of the building on fire never happened to me. The main reason that it doesn't happen a lot is in the last 15 years, the smoke alarms are very, very well working, and they turn on. The smoke alarm works very well even when you burn toast. They work well that they start way before the building is hard to exit. So it turns on, people exit, and then we get in. So there's a lot less people dying in fires these days because of the smoke alarms. So change your batteries and change your smoke alarms, because they're only good for 10 years. But that being said, I took a German Shepherd once, and pretty sure that he wouldn't have made it without us. But I saved life, and that I am sure of, with CPR. And there's one that will stick to my head, is a 25 years old gentleman that we brought back to life. That CPR saves a lot of life because we get there really, really fast. I don't know how many yet, but probably 4 or 5 persons that I definitely saved a life with the crew. But out of the fires, it's more rare, very more rare.
what about car accidents? I feel like with phones, and we all know motherfuckers want to text and film video. If you're one of those dumbasses still filming yourself while you're driving, it's like, motherfucker, my nephew is on the road. My sister is driving them. They're 3 years old. I don't got time for people to film their TikTok videos on the road. It's like, but with that said, car accidents, has there been an increase? And do you find that are you tending to more, because you said the fire alarms are working really well, are you going to way more car accidents now?
I would say it's been the same the last 10 years for me. Like you get a few every now and then. They're very hard calls to be on. When there's a person stuck in a car, it's usually very ugly. Um, Not very fun. But you talking about phones and stuff like that, what's really, really hard is when you take someone out of a car and you smell booze like gnarly, and then you know that he killed someone in front, like further. We're I think the hardest part of the job is how you need to control your emotions, and then be able to stay focused while seeing stuff, while acknowledging some information. That's the gnarly part. The gnarly part is not to go in the fire. The gnarly part is to do CPR on a child or stuff like that. That's the gnarliest thing. You just, the human, we're not made to see things like that. Like it plays with your brain. It's gnarly. Like post-traumatic experience, just from, I don't know what, how do you call it, PTSD. What's
Post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, that is the gnarliest thing ever.
Do you have it?
I did. I did, and then yeah.
And so you did. That means you once had. What was your remedy to help cure it?
Just talk about it, I would say. Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's I wouldn't want to share the story on the podcast because it's not nice.
Yeah, let's
what
not.
I saw, but talking about it with the crew, it was the thing that helped the most. But I don't think there's any cure. You can't take those images out ever. Like you can't delete them like you delete photos.
No.
What you did on the scene, what you would, how you reacted, what you saw, what you could have done differently, yeah, you can't change anything.
I kind of had a gnarly incident this summer on the glacier. 15, 14-year-old kid like hit his head, and I was the first one on scene, and the people that were calling me over made it seem as if this kid wasn't in that bad a shape, and he was seizuring, then blood and foaming out of the mouth, and his eyes were rolled back in his head, and it was like I was trying to jaw thrust because at one point he stopped breathing, and so I was trying to jaw thrust to get his airways clean, and yeah, it was just a mess. And I was like looking into his eyes, and he's just like a kid, and I like the ski patrol got there and kind of took over the situation, but like, yeah, I thought it wasn't like that traumatizing until like a couple days later. I just like kept thinking about it, and I was just like, and he didn't do so well in the hospital, and you're just like, fuck, just a kid trying to learn a 360, and yeah, he's like a child, you know what I mean? And it was really graphic, and it's close, and your hands are in there, and you're like, wow, that's yeah, it's not you're not meant to see that stuff on the day to day. And the more you do it, like I feel, and maybe you can add to this, it doesn't become less traumatizing like the more you see it.
No, it does not.
Yeah, not at all. But I would like to just thank you for your service as like just a Canadian, just to another Canadian. Like, fuck, dude, I could not do that job. I have friends that are in the military. I have friends that are police guys. I got firefighter friends and paramedics. And it's like when you sit down and have a couple beers and talk to those individuals about like what they actually do, it's like, fuck, like, thank you.
And then when I get that, I usually respond that I think every jobs are pretty important in a way, but I really appreciate, thank you. There's so many jobs that are so important. It's crazy. It's just we don't talk about all of them all the time, but yeah.
Oh, dude, nurses, you could go down the list. I will add here that I was doing a little bit of homework on you, and I found a an interview actually on your X Games Real Snow, and it's from Lieutenant Simon. He's like, Anto is the type of guy you want on your side in an emergency situation. I thought that was pretty badass that I found that on the internet, and just that I mean, it's a testament to your character. And it's just insane that you're snowboarding and then you also do this in firefighting and investing. It's like, how many units do you own?
I don't know, 75 units, something
Five,
like
seven or five?
75, 75, something like that.
75 units, motherfucker. That's my boy. You owned 0 when I used to film with you. Damn, that's sick.
Did you're right. I didn't have any.
No, dude,
That's
you were driving around with your Mazda and there was a shovel shoved into my temple. And I was like, please drive slow.
Dude, that car, I had a goal in, like, I set a goal in my head that I couldn't treat myself with a newer car before I own a building. Like, because cars are not investments, they're just like kind of a waste in a way, unless
Liability.
you, so you lose so much money on a car that I really wanted to own like something like a 2-unit. Like back here, it's easy to buy a 2-unit or duplex and when you're first owner. So I really wanted to do that before I changed the car, because I didn't want to buy a car and then not have enough money for my first property. I really just wanted to make things right.
Yeah, I do enjoy learning about finance. And I think a big reason is Matt Belzil, a good friend of mine, is just like a mentor in my life. And he's really big into real estate, and I see the value it brings, both financially and the freedoms that come along with just being financially stable and being in a position where you can like do fun things with your family and stuff like that. And I have family members that are very wealthy, and I have family members that are very, very, very modest upbringings, you could say. I don't love the word poor, but and with both, you kind of see, you know, which one works best for me and my wants and needs and who I want to be as a family man, etc. And I'm like, damn, I've got to figure out this real estate game. But a question I have for you is real estate. The world it's rocky right now as far as like the economy goes and stuff like that. Are you investing into any other asset classes, or are you pure through and through bullish on real estate?
I'm only in real estate, and not because I don't think anything else is good. I think stocks are great. I think there's many great places you can invest your money. The thing is, when you get better in something, when you understand something well, I think it's kind of safer. Like I have some and like the fact that I'm Andy and I can do some of the work in my buildings is a big asset for me. And then with real estate, I feel like I can drive in front of the building every day. I can double check, make sure everything's all right. Every day I can have a little bit of control over my investments. Comparing to any stock market, I don't have that much control. So if I can put money in a building that I can have a lot of control on, pick the tenants I'm going to put in, decide what kind of remodeling I want to do, if I want to resell it whenever I want, like I feel like I have more control over my investment than some stocks that they go up and down, and then like you don't control much. It's just like you can buy at a good time and hope that it's going to go up, and then there's great ways to make money in stocks, but I don't think you control all the aspects of it compared to what me with my knowledge can control buying a building and managing the building. So that's why I maybe didn't invest as much in stocks as I should have, or maybe what I'm doing right now is just perfect for me.
Totally. I mean, knowledge is power. You know what I mean? If you understand, even if the market's going down, and if you're somebody who's, you know, your market so well probably that you know when there's a deal. You know what I mean? You ask the price and you're like, you know, if the numbers check out and you're like, I have a big enough buffer if interest rates keep rising, if I have to decrease my rents, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? What piece of advice do you have for someone who's trying to get into real estate? Or do you think they should? Do you think they should buy a home to live in, or is buying a home not an investment? Because I feel like I hear that on a lot of podcasts. It's an interesting discussion.
If you want to get into real estate and you want to buy your first home, like your first place, I would try to buy a duplex, a 3-unit or a 4-unit. Because yeah, we could talk far and far into it, but if you buy a house, the idea of multi-family housing is you have some incomes to help you pay for your mortgage. If you buy a house, you're the only one paying for your mortgage. If you lose your job, you're the only one paying for your mortgage. If you have a 4-unit and you lose your job, there's still 3 tenants helping you pay for your mortgage. And also, if you go at the long term, like every year, you can raise the rent a little bit. So if you buy a 4-unit and you live in 1 unit, every year you raise 3-unit a little bit, and then your rent, your actual rent it's not your rent, but your fees from owning the 4th unit are gonna drop every year. So I mean, it kind of makes, and then if you buy a house, you're always paying the fees, and then the fees, taxes, insurance, they're going up every year. So I mean, a house with a suite is nice. A 3-unit is great. A duplex with a suite is great. It really depends, but real estate's not for everybody. If you don't like to talk with people, if you don't like to have a neighbor, if you don't like to work with a hammer, like it might not be for you. Maybe it really depends on everybody. Like you need to pick what is good for you to do with your money. But the best advice ever will always be live below your needs. Like people spend more money than they make. Like you shouldn't buy a brand new car if you don't own any kind of investment, whether it's a property, whether it's people, it's easy to spend money. The marketing, everything makes you want to spend money, but you shouldn't spend more than you make. And it's so easy. It blows me away how it's easy to spend money. And then like I look at some people around me when I was young, like we spent so much money at the bar, so much money in so many part of your life that is not necessary. I know it's fun to have fun, but it needs to make sense. You can't spend more money that you're making. Like I know you want to go to Bali with your friends, but are you going to be able to pay it back? Does it make sense to pay it after? Like it's hard to accept with social media, with looking at all the accounts on Instagram always traveling. It's hard to be like smart with your money. You just want to do everything they're doing, and I understand it. But I'll give you a very good example of a trick that worked for me to save money in Whistler. Like I was going out in the bar with $20 because I didn't want to spend more than that, because I was working so hard for my money, night cleaning every night, that I didn't want to spend more than that. So I would buy a couple of beers or a few beers before we go to Garf, and then drink that before we go to the bar. And then I would buy 1 or 2 beer over there. They were so expensive. And then I would I would keep my beer all night and then fill it up with water, just because I didn't want to be asked, hey, why aren't you drinking? Like, you should be drinking. Like, they wouldn't ask any question because I had a beer in my hand all the time. But I wasn't spending $200 like my best friend. And I wasn't taking the drinks that people were offering me. I was like, oh, no, I got my beer, I'm fine. I didn't want to take people's money offering me beers because I didn't want to say, I don't want to spend money, because I didn't want people to buy me drinks. Like, it would be silly. And then I was still having fun. I was having a blast, because you don't always have to be super drunk to have fun. And then I did party a lot too. Like, I'm not saying I never partied. I'm just saying I didn't want to spend $100 every night I was going out, because we were going out often in Whistler. Like, but it's just, you have to set your goals in a way, and you have to be careful. Like, you can't work at a bar, make tons of money, and then spend it all. Like, what's the point? You work for nothing. It's tough, man. It's really tough. It's still to this day. Like, I see a surfboard and I want it now. It's the same for everybody. It's hard. It's hard to make the right choices.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're gonna make the right choices that you kind of need to do that to move forward in life.
People are so accustomed to spending more than they make, man. All of my friends back home, all of my friends have back home, for the most part, new cars, all of them. And all of them have jobs. I'm not saying that they're bad jobs. They probably make between $60,000 and $80,000 a year. Fine, respectable, happy stuff. But shit, dude, you go buy a $70,000 or $100,000 truck now. It's like, and they're like, what? The payments aren't that bad. And I'm like, dude, like, I'm like, you are never gonna get ahead. You're buying $100,000 truck. You're gonna buy that, and then in 10 years, you're selling that truck for 38 grand, if that.
No, it's not.
And you just lost $60,000, which in a lot of, in a lot of places that aren't in BC, that's a down payment for, like, something. And I've been trying to learn more, because it's like the whole going out thing is it adds up quick, because now that a meal anywhere out of your house is $25, then you throw a drink on it, it's 30, you decide to get your girls
Tip.
80, and that's $100 if you go out as a couple every time.
And then I still to this day count it, like, by hours that I spend at the station. Like I told you earlier, like, okay, we're gonna go out, and I'm not crazy and thinking about that every day and every minute, but I'm just, for example, like, we're going out, spending $150 at a restaurant, and then it means that I spend that many hours at this station for that, far away from my family. It's just a way to picture it. And then like, because we forget when you tap your credit card on those bottle of wines and those cigarettes and then that weed and everything, like, it's easy to tap the card. But if every time you would tap the card, it would be like, hey, are you sure you want to work 10 hours at the grocery store for that? Yeah. Like, the credit card wouldn't do that, because they wouldn't make that much money.
Oh man, yeah, the credit card is a crazy thing that got brought into society. I was listening to a podcast the other day on how the majority of people used to use debit cards, but now the majority of people use credit cards.
Yeah.
They were also saying that single family homes in the States are down 26%, and people moving into apartment buildings has climbed like 22%, which is wild to see that gap, because the American dream's always been to buy a house and have your own little thing. And it's like now everybody is moving into apartments with more stuff than ever. Everybody has so much shit, and everybody buys a new TV like it's an iPhone now. The amount of times I go to my friend's house, like, gotta get a new TV. I'm like, what? Like, what's wrong with this flat screen? They're like, oh, it's 6 years old. I'm like, if it's in 1080, it's good enough. Like,
you still watch everything on your phone, dude.
yeah.
But yeah, you think you need the new coffee grinder, you need the new coffee machine.
And do
It's
you
tough.
deserve it is another thing. It feels good to hold out. Like, it feels good to work hard and know that you are deserving of the item that you're purchasing and you can afford it. You're like, I see like Belzo bought a Tesla, and Matt always said, I can't buy a Tesla until my Tesla stocks are at X and my real estate portfolio is at X, or it doesn't make sense. And then he reached his goal
Yeah.
and he treated himself. And I think that that's how you need to navigate your life, is like set goals. Then when you get to your goal, then you get the treat, motherfucker. You don't
Yeah.
get the treat without putting in the work. I mean, you can now on credit cards, but then your life gets screwed up pretty quick.
Matt is a role model for me too. But same little story. Like I told you, I kept my Mazda 3 Protege till the end, very end. I waited until I owned my first duplex, and I owned my first duplex. I had an investment. I had like set money aside, and I still had a little bit. Like, and then I started to make money with, and whatever happened, I decided to buy a brand new truck, and then I decided to buy it brand new because I wanted to get the right truck that I would keep for a long time. Because if you buy a car, sell it, you're losing so much money. It's such a bad way to spend your money. But I bought the right truck, and then I kept it for 10 years. And it went up to, I had so much mileage on it. It ended up costing me 5 cents a kilometer with all expenses over the 10 years. So I got back into my money because I kept it for long. But people buy a car and they change it every 3 years. So they keep those payments forever. I had the truck, it was paid after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then I had it kind of for free for 5 years too. So there's still ways to buy a brand new car and still be smart about it. But if you're going to change it every year, you're going to lose a shit ton of money.
What's the best real estate move you've ever made, or real estate investment you've ever made?
I feel like every time I buy something, I feel like it's the best move.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the more I look, the more I know about the market, the better I get at finding something that is good. But there's a lot of different things that can make a good deal a good deal. There's so many details, like a good neighborhood. You're not like right now. It was hard to have a good price on properties. Everything was overbid. But yeah, it really depends. It's a really hard question. I can't really answer. A good deal is, yeah, it doesn't mean it's going to be profitable right now. It doesn't mean that. Yeah, I can't answer. I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay. So maybe the most important question, and I think this is what people at this point of the podcast are looking for, is snowboarder. Pro DC gets the ring, gets to film with Torstein, Devin, X Games. How many medals do you have with X Games?
3.
3 X Games, 2 silver and a bronze.
Yeah.
Real estate mogul, 76 units, you said. An amazing dad, as I'm imagining, and a son who's making his parents proud, which I like that you touched on that, because I think that that's important. And you don't get to choose your parents, but like, I don't know, I think that that's, if you can keep that relationship going, or you can mend that, I think that you should. Where does this drive come from to be successful? Where does it come from to be the best version of Anto at all times and in all aspects of your life? And I ask this because it's truly something that all of us would love to. Everybody wants that gift, man. Everybody wants to be able to put their best foot forward, but people find it really hard. So how does Anto do it?
I mean, for me, everything starts with some passions. Like I'm driven to make things happen because I go back to, I want to snowboard and skateboard all the time. and surf, and then that's like, so I always wanted to be maybe financially free so I could do more of those. So I guess it's very important to have goals and to have dreams. And then, dude, my first dream was to be in a snowboard magazine. Like, so when you achieve that dream, like your dreams needs to make sense too. Like if you dream to own a yacht, like it might be a little bit too high of a, is it like, but I reach my dream, and then that leads me to maybe think about another possible dream. Like, and you, if it makes sense, like, why wouldn't you make it happen? Like, why wouldn't it work? Now I'm gonna share this to you, but one of my dream now is to fly. Like I had a great, I achieved many amazing dreams, and even as simple as they could have been, but now I have a dream that I might get my license to fly, and then yeah, I'm working towards that. Why not? Why, if you're so driven by that, why wouldn't you try anything to do it? But to go back to your question,
what pushes you to do that? What pushes you to do all of these things and be the best? Like, because I feel like there's something about you that wants to be the best. Or are you not trying to achieve being the best, but that you just aspire to be the best version of yourself? It's like,
I think I'm just trying my best and everything. Like if for snowboarding, like I never wanted to be the best, but I always wanted that feeling of learning a new trick. It wasn't, I never wanted to be the best, but I wanted to learn a new trick. And then that was a great feeling always to like, because when I do a trick five times in a row, I'm gonna get bored. So I need more. It's just, I'm addicted to it. And then, so I guess I was always trying to push myself and making my tricks more perfect. And but it's the same in anything. Like I want to be a good firefighter. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good partner. I want to be a good son. Like it feels nice to do things right in anything. So I want to be a good landlord. I want my properties to be in good shape. I want everything to be perfect. And that makes me really, really hard on myself too. And there's some downs in everything. Like I'm really hard on myself. Like if I don't work hard enough on a day, I'm like, you need to do better tomorrow. Like it's everything's not perfect in my life. Like it might sound today, but yeah, I'm really motivated to push my own limits. Like, and then to answer back your question, like when somebody says no to me, if the bank says you cannot borrow money, I'm not going to turn around and change the project. I'm going to turn around, I'm going to ask why until I fully understand the issue, and I'm going to figure out how to overcome the issue. And it's the same as making a spot happen. Like, oh, okay, we need that tool. It doesn't work. We're gonna change the plan. No, like like before I abandon a project, it's really gonna have to be a problem. There's a lot of solutions, and I already say that to my daughters. But if there's a problem, there's a solution. I've been told no by the bankers so many times that you cannot buy that building, it doesn't have enough incomes or whatever. And then I figure out a way, because there's ways to fix problems. There's always a way.
I love that you said, well, like when you're asking why and somebody gives you that answer, you don't want to leave until you fully understand their answer. of the why can't I do this? Because if you don't understand it fully and you say, why can't I do it? And then they give you the reason. I feel like most people at that point are like, well, why can't I do it? And then they're like, well, this. And they're like, okay, goodbye. You probably jot those 5 bullet points that they said, you can't do it because of X, 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 X. And you go home, you're like, hey, first one's crossed off, second one's crossed off. And you come back and you're like, you don't got any more whys. I'm going to buy this bitch.
Well, that's exactly what I do. And it's the same for snowboarding. When DC told me we cannot fly you to Mount Hood, like I found out another way. I drove. Like in many aspects of my life, like there's just, I think that there's solutions to whatever problems you have that can overcome your dreams.
John Stark on the last podcast, I love that he said, if you're not part of the solution, don't be a part of the problem. And I just that it was just like the way he said it, and he articulated it nice in a story. And I was like, that one stuck with me. I was like, I've heard it before when I was a kid, but I was like, damn, yeah, that's totally true.
You mentioned Thorstein again, but gotta get into that dude. I owe him so much. He really taught me a lot. But you mentioned that he was a great snowboarder, and to witness everything like that, he like to be there when he shoots something is fucking mental. Like he is one of the best that will ever be. Like I was going snowboarding with him, and he would see the jump, we would build it, but he could figure out the speed. Like he has so many first tracks on hits. It's incredible. Like to be able to, like I would get clips in the backcountry, but he would, like, because I was beside him, because he would figure out the speed. Like he would be like, you should start from there. Like I'm good. I'm a good snowboarder, but I'm not that good to figure out the speed every time perfectly. But he would get that. Like I saw some stuff.
Anto, I'm going to interrupt you there though, because you could have been that, but you grew up in
somewhere
Quebec,
else,
and you navigated your expertise in the streets, and you figured out at the end of your fucking career how much speed you have to get onto this ledge, this sea rail, this big rainbow. It's like you had that to a T, to the point where if you fucked that up, you would fucking die. Yeah. And Torstein did both streets and backcountry and park jumps. And I think that if you had spent more time in the backcountry, you could have dialed out those speed issues and stuff like that. First try too. But just because I've heard you a couple times, and I like that you're very modest about your career and your riding and your capabilities. And I know that you're a workhorse, and that not everything comes to you, maybe as easy as someone like Jed or something like that. But fuck, homie, you are a sick snowboarder. You're good.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to send Thorstein some flowers, because I witnessed him go off some stuff first track, and the whole crew couldn't believe. Like, and I'm glad, and I was really bummed he wasn't at Supernatural the first time, because I feel like people would see how good he is, and people saw last year how good he is for the first time.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, he kind of did like, he was kind of like a band that like a pop band that was really big that everybody liked, but the core industry didn't like love him that much. And then he disappeared, stopped making music, and then came back more himself than ever. And then everybody was like, okay, he's the best. Like, let's hear his music all the time. I don't know anybody anymore who's not a Torstein fan.
Yeah.
It's like, and it seems like whatever he's done in his life over the last 5 years, he's more comfortable in his own skin than ever. He's more Torstein than ever. He's his ride. He got rid of his afterbang, dude, which is one of his style things that I actually didn't enjoy in 2013 Torstein. He had the craziest afterbang, and it was like, I knew it was a thing, but it wasn't. And I'm not saying that I didn't have one either. I idolized Lucas Magoon. Let's not be. I had my own afterbang, but like his riding now is just so authentically him.
It's pretty sick. Yeah, but I owe him a lot and really appreciate it.
Well, on the owing a lot, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being a huge role model in my life. You've helped me out a lot. The trips to Quebec and stuff like that, like, not only were they fun, the best, you, me, and Matt, like, you guys embraced me. You helped me find spots. You shovel. It's just your work ethic, picking me up from the airport, and reflecting on that now that I'm older, it's like, it was special to be a part of. And I really appreciate how much you like helped my career at that time too. Like it was inspiring to be around you, as we like different spots and we called them Jody spots, but like you would find me these amazing spots and you would get me these amazing clips. And I'm so excited that we got to like catch up. Thanks so much for being on the show. I got 10 questions for you now, boss. And I think we can this has been so interesting. Maybe we'll do a follow-up in a couple months or in a year or something like that.
I want to continue on what you were saying, but that last year we worked together, Man Boys movie. That, I think that's my favorite part that I did. It was a great year, and it was such an amazing crew to be with. It was such a nice flow to work with everybody, filmers. Like, that was such a crazy year. I was really bummed because that year I did the Union movie too. So I had the part in Men Boys and then with Union, but I really wish I had one part. But you can do everything, but that part, that I like the song and the edit, and even if it was the best tricks, such a good year. And then we were trying together so hard to help each other to save money so we could make it. Like, it was just a bunch of friends trying to make it, trying to help each other save money so he could do more with his money. Like, we were so poor, so it was so complicated to film, but it was also very, very magic. But yeah, thank you. It was really my pleasure to help. I did as much as I could.
Yeah, you did more. You were the fucking man. All right. Okay. Number one, best style currently and back in the day.
Backcountry or jib, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you just pick. You go. Take the question where you want.
And today, Louis, backcountry and jib. And then back in the days, I really liked David Benedict.
Good pick. I don't think anyone's picked him yet, which is wild. David Benedict is fucking.
I thought he had a rad style.
Yeah, I agree. All right, most underrated boarder.
When? It's hard.
It's anybody.
And I'll say Seb Picard.
Oh, dude, that gets sick.
But he's getting known now, but it took a while.
He's really good. He's got
Very
French Canadian proper.
Oh, he's so proper.
Okay, this one wasn't on my questions, but let me ask you this. Who is the most proper jibber? Whose presses are the best and whose like board slides are the most squared up and back lips right in the center? Who is the epitome of the best French Canadian snowboarder?
And there's quite a lot that were very proper. I would be tempted to say like Phil Jacques or people like that, but I'm gonna give some props to Greg Desjardins.
Greg was so sick, dude.
He was
Love
very
Greg.
proper on his presses. Greg and Ben Billock. Greg Desjardins was pretty dope for being proper.
Love that pick. I'm glad I asked you that. Okay, number 3, worst thing about snowboarding.
Social media.
Oh, that was good. I thought you were gonna say wet boots, but yeah, fuck social media. Seriously, you're telling me.
No, but if I can I'm gonna do this. Like back in the days, you were filming a part, you were just snowboarding. They would film it, and at the end of the year, they would make some video parts, and then that would be it. Like, and if you have ender or opener, you would be really doing well. Like, you didn't have to like promote yourself. Like promoting yourself is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's one of the worst things that social
That-
media.
that's what's explain my answer, because yeah, I think it's weird that we need to do that.
No, I think that everyone who's listening to this, we all understand that it's weird. Hopefully something changes in the future. All right, career highlight.
There's a lot, but there was a moment I was really proud is I was in, I think it was Breckenridge for award ceremony for Transworld, and then Union Movie Stronger won Movie of the Year, and then I went on the stage with Kazu, Travis, I think it was Thorstein, and I'm not sure who else. I'll find a photo, but I felt like, yeah, felt pretty crazy.
Yeah, that lineup. That
Yeah,
is
I felt really proud, and I was like, my dad's gonna be pretty proud. I don't know. It felt insane. It really felt like I was gonna maybe inspire some people at this point, like some kids would be inspired, and if I can change some people's life and then push them to snowboard and then inspire them to snowboard or get out of the house and everything, like I think that's pretty sick. Other than me pushing myself to snowboard, like I think it's rad that you can change somebody's life, like all the pro snowboarder changed my life back in the days. Thanks, Devin Walsh, for being my childhood hero and being on my wall with all the other snowboarders. But it's pretty sick. That's another highlight that I went in the backcountry one year. I was going up like for a few times, just me and Devin. It was amazing to share my passion with my hero, and he doesn't know that he was my hero. Like I never told him, hey, you were my hero or whatever. Like he always treated me like I was just a normal person. But it's so weird because he's such a legend. Even to this day, like he's my legend and my hero in a way. It's really funny.
that was dope. Okay. This one wasn't on the board, but I think that this question is sick. So I don't necessarily know how to perfectly articulate it right now, but I'm wondering, what song or artist do you turn up the volume loud because it like gets you fucking fired up, and you're like, because you hit some buck spots, like some of the gnarliest spots ever. You're headed to the spot. What is Anto playing and what are you turning up? Like, what are you like, let's fucking do this?
I honestly, writing, I wasn't listening to any music because I wouldn't hear it.
No, but to the spot in the truck.
Well, it was always some of my favorite video parts. Like Louis in these days played so much in my ears, just be like he's just such a good snowboarder. And then Chris Grenier in Get Real, what was the song? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, that one, this first part. Yeah, that was amazing. I forget what it is, but dun, dun.
Oh my god, there's
Yeah.
so many. I was fueled on video parts. I like our from Resistance to like Double Decade. I knew every part, every song. I listened to so many. I was buying all the videos, all the DVDs. I thought it was important to support the industry that way, but and to be part of the economy of snowboarding. But yeah, I was driven just by inspired by all those video parts and the music from that.
Let me ask you this then. Whose video part shaped and inspired you the most?
Well, there's two. JP Walker in True Life was very strong for me. Now there's so many. I watched on repeat Seth Hewitt in Shakedown with the song Fire. When he drops the back them, it says fire. And then Shakedown was also David Benedek in the first Robot Food movie. The part that he does the tricks in regular and switch, I could not believe that. And then I would go to the mountain and do cab 5 and front 5 same grab. I was just trying to be like him so much. I just thought I wanted to be well-rounded. Like I wanted to be. I was riding pipe so hard because I wanted to be like Pat Moore in the Grenades movie because he had huge mech twists and rails, and then I was so motivated to be like those guys. They were so sick. Pat Moore, oh my god. And yeah, we could nerd on snowboarding for hours. I'm so passionate.
Oh, I love that. Okay, fisheye or long lens?
Long lens.
Biggest pet peeve.
What's that in French?
Biggest pet peeve is just something that like gets under your skin, something that annoys you easily.
Traffic, because I lose time and time is precious.
Oh, that was good, dude. All right, best trend in snowboard history.
Trend, method.
There you go. Well, the next thing was, yeah, what's your favorite grab? But might be a method.
I like Japan quite a bit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right, number 10. Who's the GOAT?
Torstein.
I think that's a first for Torstein. Boom.
Yeah. You to watch a video part and to see something live is fully different. Yeah. Yeah, he's an animal.
Well, Anto, is there any final thoughts, any thank yous? I know that you've been kind of a little distant from snowboarding these last couple of years because you've been navigating being an amazing husband, hanging out with your family, working on your real estate portfolio. But nonetheless, you're still snowboarding and you're trying to do it as much as you can. You're just away from the public eye. Yeah, any thank yous or closing remarks?
Well, dude, as much as I'm sad that I didn't get to, in my mind, complete like the career that I wanted to film my 2-3 year video part that I dreamed. Like beside that, not being a pro snowboarder anymore got me very close to snowboarding because I snowboard a lot more without a camera. Like I ride shred pow so much without a camera that I feel even closer to snowboarding in a way, because when you film, when you work on the part, you snowboard a little less than you think. And then when you spend a full day LE skiing, cat skiing or stuff like that, you really snowboard in a way. I really want to thank you, my partner, Sarah. We've been together for over 10 years, and then we have 2 beautiful daughters, and she's been part of everything that I build, like everything that you mentioned, she's part of. So big shout out to her, shout out to I would love to name you all, but there's just too many people, but everybody that was involved in any way in my career, in my success, in anything, please accept all my thank yous. And then my mom and my dad they made me who I am. They shared me all the great values. And then if you have any kids, make sure to share them the best values ever. Show them the respect. Respect is going to make this world a greater place. Respect the environment, respect everybody beside you. That's the values that we're going to teach are going to change the world.
Fuck, Anto, you are a legend, certified boss. Thank you for coming on the show. I fucking love you, dude. That was dope. Thank you.
It was a major honor. I told you, but I kind of feel like this is kind of my last part.
No way, dude. We're gonna get you in the booth again, dog.
Yeah, this means
We'll
a
get
lot.
you on like a full snowboard dork out, like at one point, and we'll be doing it live from Whistler.
But I really appreciate this. I hope listeners likes it. I hope it can help some people too. But it was really.
I think it will, man. People need to feel. People want to connect with somebody, which everyone here cares about snowboarding in some way or another, and because of that connection, they're gonna just see what you've accomplished in your life already at the ripe age of 34 or something. It's like pro snowboarder, firefighter, real estate mogul, father. And it's just like the way that you've navigated your life is so inspirational. I really hope you don't waste any time being hard on yourself because you're fucking one hell of a human.
Gotta be hard on
So
yourself.
Anto, be proud of yourself, man. You're a good man.
I'm proud and I'm very lucky and I'm very thankful. You got to be thankful. Like in North America, we're very lucky and we gotta
Gratitude, baby.
do everything. Yeah.
All right. Peace. Boom.
Don't worry. Like and subscribe. Airtime Podcast. Turn that bell on.
Cody,
Don't miss an episode.
is this the battery that you grabbed this morning?